Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 64. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, it's going to be really weird this weekend watching football and knowing the Steelers aren't a part of it.
Yeah, look, I mean, it goes from Mike Thomas says the finality comes on you real quick, right? Your season comes to an abrupt halt, and that's exactly what you look. I think both of us kind of thought maybe there's a good chance for the Steelers to get into the playoffs, especially with 3 weeks remaining in the season. Obviously, that optimism had shrunk quite a bit once we got into the regular season finale there. But here we are. You turn around and you're going another direction, 90 miles an hour, and it takes a little bit of settling in, if you will, at least for me, to kind of switch gears and go the different direction like we're going right now.
Which collapse was more disappointing? Last year's, in the sense of 2018, where you're 7-2-1, or this year's where you're 8-5? I guess probably last year because you had a healthy Ben and you had a better record. But did any of these hurt more than the other these last 2 years?
Yeah, I would probably, definitely because you had your quarterback last year. But make no mistake about it, man. And like we've said, or like I've said since the season ended. You're sitting there with 3 games left in the position that you were in. Yeah, you don't have Ben. Yeah, you're missing some pieces there, but kind of knowing at the time, looking ahead at the possibility of playing a Ravens team that really wasn't going to have anything to play for. You still had the Jets on the schedule. You had a little bit of optimism even going into that game against the Bills, I think, because of the way your defense was playing. So there is still, I'm not to the point of just sweeping the 8-8 season under the rug because of the injuries and all like that. Because I had really gotten myself to a point, ahead of that game against the Bills where I think, and I said it, I think a couple times, people should be disappointed this team doesn't at least make it into playoffs, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll talk about a little bit later in the show a couple plays from this year, key ones that really kind of changed and shaped and in a way doomed this Steelers season. But let's start with some good news to help kind of tide over Steeler fans for the weekend because they're not watching playoff football with Pittsburgh involved. In terms of the Hall of Fame, Troy Polamalu and Alan Faneca named modern era finalists 2 of 15 for the Hall of Fame class of 2020. Both well-deserved. I think Troy's got to be a slam dunk for the first ballot, and I really hope this is the year for Faneca, though again, he's going to have quite a bit of competition.
Yeah, when you go through the names in the totality here, Troy Polamalu, wide receiver Reggie Wayne, let's see, and those were 2 first-year eligible players. Safety Leroy Butler, wide receiver Torrey Holt, linebacker Sam Mills and Zach Thomas, defensive tackle Brian Young have been previously eligible for the Hall of Fame, but this year marks their first time as finalists. Let's read off the other names here. I think Steve Atwater, Tony Baselli, Isaac Bruce, Leroy Butler, Alan Faneca, Torrey Holt, Steve Hutchinson, Edgerrin James, John Lynch, Sam Mills, Troy Polamalu, Richard Seymour, Zach Thomas, Reggie Wayne, and Bryant Young. What ones can we toss off out of the equation real quick? Steve Atwater?
Yeah, probably Atwater. Edge. I don't think Edge is going to get in this year. It's tough for backs to go. Bryant Young, I doubt it. Seymour, I don't feel like on. Is this first ballot for Richard Seymour?
I think it's his first time on it. I don't think it's obviously his first time eligible. I don't think.
Right. But as a finalist, I don't think. To me, when I look at this list, the name that sticks out and it just hits me is that this dude's going to make it is Troy above anybody else on this list.
It really does, and I was kind of worried about this, especially when we went through the that recent NFL 100 and all like that. I mean, how the hell to look? Apologies to people that played 60 years before I was born, 30 years before I was born. Surely they could have carved out one of those guys and made room for Troy. But regardless, when you're looking at the thing that matters, which is the Hall of Fame. Yeah, when you look at this list, I mean, how many of these people on this list first, won a Super Bowl? I guess Butler did Butler win it from 90 to 2001 with the Packers? How many times did the Packers win before that? Didn't they beat the Patriots in like 2000 or 2001 one time? Anyway, obviously Isaac Bruce, probably is going to be a battle this time. Sam Mills was a great linebacker. I don't know if I consider him Hall of Fame worthy. I'll have to look deeper in his stuff. And Zach Thomas was another, very good linebacker, but this isn't the Hall of Very Good. And I think this is, Hines Ward found that out. This time around, because he was not a finalist this time around, and that did not surprise me at all. Now, John Lynch, obviously, there's going to be some probably pretty decent talk about him and all, but yeah, I think going back to it, I think Troy Polamalu, even if you're not a Steelers fan, is a name that should jump off that list, at you, and quite honestly, Faneca, I think, should be a name that jumps out as well, too. Obviously, there's that log jam in there. That's still in there, even despite the fact that who was the center that got in last year?
Kevin Mawai?
Yeah, Mawai. Now, even now that Mawai is in, I thought Faneca should have got in, ahead of Mawai, but he didn't. I mean, I understand that, them slowly trying to pick these things off. But when you look at Tony Baselli, look, I feel honored to have lived in a time where I got to watch, all of Tony Baselli's career, and really the same with Steve Hutchinson. But I think just Alan Faneca, when you look at the offensive linemen on this list, I think Alan Faneca's resume is just, those guys and more. And when you look at 6 All-Pros, and I wrote about this, I think, a year or two ago with Faneca too, his unselfishness of moving to the left tackle position during that one season, pretty much cost him another All-Pro because, he didn't get it at left tackle for obvious reasons. His position was guard. We should be looking at a 7-time All-Pro here when it comes to Faneca, and really I think his All-Pros kind of dwarf these other two. So when you do look at these names, and that 5 of them have to come out of here because 5 is the limit, I definitely think Troy should be one of them, and I think Alan Faneca should be another one of them.
You'll get the argument from me. I mean, Faneca has more Pro Bowls, more All-Pros than Hutchinson or Baselli, and he's got a ring, for whatever that's worth. But I just worry because he's been down this road before and he's been with competition, and it feels like they're only going to give one lineman the nod per year, and Hutchinson's on this list, and I feel like some people might lean to him. So I don't know how I feel about Faneca. I feel like he deserves to be in. I don't know what his odds actually are. I think Troy's 100%er. If he doesn't make it, it'll be borderline criminal.
Yeah, I do as well. But I got to admit, before them getting this far, I was kind of worried there.
Yeah. And then, as you said, Hines Ward did not make it as a finalist. He's always been a borderline guy to these lists, and I just don't see the path going forward for him. As years go by, more receivers get added. There's always been a long game at the position where receivers have had to wait for a long time. Obviously, not Bruce and Holt are going to get in this year. That'd be very, very unlikely. One of them, maybe, but probably not both. I just tough to see that path going forward for Hines.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've talked about it a few times. It's going to be tough for him, I think.
Yep. If you had to pick a list of 5, and I don't even know if 5 are going to get in this year because this list doesn't feel as strong as maybe some other years, who would you kind of lean towards? I know Troy and Faneca are going to make up 2 of those 5 for your list.
When it comes to what? This year's list here?
Yeah. Give me, I guess, 3 other names you would put in the Hall of Fame besides Troy and Faneca.
Bruce, I think Isaac Bruce stands a good chance.
Yeah, over Holt? I kind of lean Holt over Bruce. Just my gut feeling.
I think Isaac Bruce has a chance here. I think John Lynch possibly has a chance. And it's tough coming up with another one here, Alex, to be honest
I'm
with
gonna
you.
go Zach Thomas. I know you kind of said very good. Maybe it's just because I grew up watching him. That's kind of when I started getting into football. Was around the height of Zach Thomas, but I think Thomas would get the nod for me.
Okay, fair enough. It's going to be. I don't think any of these guys are guys that we can sit here and say bet the house on. You know.
Right. Besides Troy, I bet the house on
Right.
Troy.
Well, I mean, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I'd go with. I was thinking Troy, Faneca, Zach Thomas, maybe Torrey Holt, and then perhaps John Lynch. That'd kind of be my list.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so in the Hall of Fame, the actual candidates or the inductions will be not the inductions, but the final list is what right before the day before Super Bowl.
Right. Usually, right there, during the honors and during the honors, ESPN honors, right?
Gotcha. I think so. Yeah. So that'll be whenever we know about the actual group for 2020, and certainly rooting for Troy and Faneca. All right, Dave. I don't know where you want to go here with how we can do some salary cap stuff. I mean, what direction you want to take this thing?
Let's see. When we look at, let's go over what you wrote about special teams there.
Okay, and I know I am the Danny Smith apologist in chief, but I think I've been critical of him as much as anybody in certain topics and categories. And I wrote an article today for Steelers Depot that kind of looked into the Steelers kick return game and just how poor it's been year after year. And the old saying is what, one is just a coincidence or a chance, and two is a coincidence, and three is a pattern. And we're at pattern stage here for the Steelers kick return game. The last 3 years, the Steelers kick return game has ranked 29th, 31st, and this year again 31st, and worse than the past 2 years in terms of the average 18.1 yards per kick return, only ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. And I know that it was very much in vogue to make fun of Ryan Switzer, and he's been part of this unit for basically 2 years, 18 and 19, before getting hurt this past year. But it's not just on him. You've had these consistent issues. You've had different return guys. I mean, at some point you can talk about blocking issues and player issues, and Switzer not being the most dynamic player. But when you have these recurring problems and new faces that get thrown in there and you still get the same results, I think you have to point the finger at Danny Smith and say this is a clear issue and they have not figured out a way to improve here. And if anything, they've gotten worse somehow.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of little things that I'm sure that go into that. Look, it's harder to kind of decipher special teams, especially return units, more than anything else. But the fact of the matter is they haven't gotten better, like you said with those numbers there. And it makes you kind of wonder if something just schematically needs to be drawn up. Just a few different ideas in there. Now, obviously, they haven't had supreme return men, if you will. Heck, even that one year they tried to bring in an older Jacoby Jones, right? And that didn't work out good at all. But yeah, look, when I wrote up and started talking about which of the coaching staff is more likely to be gone, especially of the coordinators, I think it has to be Danny Smith, the most likely of those three. And really, when you look at the coaching staff as a whole, I think his name is one that keeps popping up as the most likely to not return.
Well, I think that's just done because obviously people just don't like Danny Smith, and I know that there is so much more to special teams than just a kick return game, and really for all the other areas, even in some of their struggles, I think a lot of that's defensible and not all on the coordinator, but I think in this area, because it has been a problem for so long, you've tried so many different players and pieces, there's only been one common thread really these last 3 years in terms of the kick return game, and it's been Danny Smith. And again, I think the blocking's been terrible a lot of instances. I mean, I think when you look at the individual failings, it hasn't been necessarily a schematic issue where I'm saying, okay, here's this big scheme thing where the player is not put in position to succeed, which is usually my definition of whether or not you're a good coach. But when you have the failure over and over and over again with different players and different return men, eventually you have to point the finger at Danny Smith, and in this case, I do.
It'd be interesting now to see if what the Steelers think, after they go through their evaluations and all. And we should know, when you look back at last year and the years before and how quickly moves have been made. I mean, it's not going to take but a couple of weeks to find out, what Danny Smith's fate is.
And I'm not saying this has to be the reason to fire him. There are a ton of aspects of special teams play, but it's something that certainly has to be noted because of how bad it's been. The other thing I want to note when it comes to the kick return game, this is probably a more minor point, but it just kind of speaks to the lack of continuity and certainly the lack of consistency, though they've been, I guess, consistent in a miserable way. It's been 27 years now since the Steelers have had the same kick returner in back-to-back seasons. I thought this year was going to be the year where they would have the streak broken with Switzer, but actually Kerrith White Jr. finished with 5 more kick returns than Ryan Switzer. So the last Steelers kick returner to be their leader in back-to-back years was Rod Woodson in 92 and 93. It's literally since 94 to 2019, it's been a different guy every single year. No one showed up twice on this list, which Steelers have to be the only team in the league that can say that, and I think that just speaks to their issues.
I mean, we don't expect Switzer to be back, right?
Well, he's going to be in camp.
In camp, but I mean on the 53.
Yeah, but it goes back to really Kerrith White because he's now the guy that is now the leader in the kick return game, and will he be the one that breaks the streak? And he's got a chance. I think he'll certainly be in camp, and will he make the roster? I think there's a chance for that, but I don't know who you want to go with your kick returner. I mean, I know that the issue goes much deeper than just the kick return man. The block has been a problem, schematic issues, all that stuff, but maybe in the draft you take a really hard look at a receiver that is a dynamic kick returner that can really offer you something there that can maybe play in just beyond just a poor blocking, because maybe somebody that can just be that good will help kind of transform this unit.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think this team needs to, regardless, look at the receiver position, maybe a Z kind of type, a guy, kind of one that with a little bit of speed on him, and if you can get one that also has functioned as a kick returner in the past, yeah, absolutely, go that area. But I think when you look at Kerrith White, I mean, he wasn't. How many total returns did he have, White?
14.
That many? Wow.
I know. I thought it was a lot less than that, but 14. And his average was worse than Switzer's. I know everyone likes to rag on Switzer, but since 2017, he's got the third best average of any Steelers kick returner with 5+ attempts, more about a yard better than what Kerrith White had. And so it's not that Switzer's a great return man. He isn't. These numbers are all miserable for basically any player who's gotten the opportunity, but that just speaks to it's not a Switzer problem. It's not just a return man problem. It's a unit problem, and it hasn't gotten better, and that's frustrating.
Somebody I have ragged on in the past over the years, especially coming out of college and on, who always has found a way to just get him a niche to stay in the league is damn Cordell Patterson, man.
Yeah.
That guy and that guy will play on both sides of special teams for you too. He just finds a way in the return game. He's probably good for one return touchdown a year. He'll pop a couple long ones in here on top of. Now I don't think his ball security isn't the best in the league when it comes to that. But those kind of guys, they can carve out a niche, especially if they go both ways on special teams. Not saying that will be not to say that the Steelers will go outside and get more a specialized specialist, if you will, but it certainly wouldn't hurt my feelings if they did.
Yeah, like I said, maybe you can find someone that could kind of transcend how bad this unit's been just by being that kind of dynamic type of player. And Patterson, I don't think they're going to go after him, but he's got the second best kick return average in NFL history, only behind Gale Sayers. I went a little bit ahead of Lynn Chad Noyes, one of my favorite Steelers of all time, and probably their greatest return man of all time, at least right up there with Woodson. So, I just want to point that out, that it's been miserable. It hasn't gotten better. It's really gotten worse. Lack of continuity, consistency. And if there is one area where I will not defend Danny Smith, it is in the kick return game, because they've just been flat out terrible.
So, when push comes to shove, do you think they should retain him?
I want to think about it a little bit more, because I just haven't had time to really look at it. I have. I mean, I really haven't. It's a difficult. I don't want to be one of those guys who just fire everybody or fire this guy, and I don't want to be that hot takey about it. I think beyond the kick return game, the special teams unit has been good in a lot of ways. Jordan Bear was having a great year till he fell apart, and really I don't think those issues are on Danny Smith Boswell. I know that obviously he may be being healthier and just his own. Working on his own problems was certainly the primary reason why he bounced back. But I think Danny Smith deserves some credit for that. The coverage units have been good. The punt return game, shot in the arm with Deontay Johnson. Problem solving, attacking units, strategy. I mean, the real minutia, X's and those stuff, I think he does really well. So my feeling is probably not. It's just very frustrating to see why can't this kick return game. I'm not saying it has to be top 10, although obviously I would love for it to be top 10. But why can't they be average? Why can't they just be an average middling, boring unit. Why do they have to be bad every single year? It just baffles me.
You're gonna hee-haw around long enough, and you're not gonna get a chance to be able
That's
to
what I'm
predict
trying
it.
to do. Shh,
Because
don't tell him my
he's
plan.
gonna be out the door there. And look, you know what they call an almost punt blocked?
Not a punt block.
A punt.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, listen, he schemes his stuff up really well. You look at some of the details and some of the ways that you can get guys free and the field goal block team, the punt block team. I know people aren't going to care about me saying this, but it's impressive. It really is.
Yeah.
He's a good problem solver in that sense, not in the overall sense of fixed a unit, but in terms of attacking teams and being able to handle what other teams do and how they try to attack and stress you. He is a good problem solver in that regard.
But somehow they can't manage to get a punt called off.
Well, yeah, again,
a fake punt called off.
I don't know what happened there.
I always get a kick, and they're so simplistic when they come out. But who's the guy that every year does the special teams rankings? What is his name?
The Dallas guy.
Yeah, always
Gosselin.
Rich Gosselin. He always does it, and they're super simplistic. I mean, if you want to take the
just
time,
adding up basically all their rankings, right?
Right. But he does a little bit, a few extra rankings, and I think, in other words, it takes just an extra 10 minutes to dig for the kind of the data that he's ranking and all like that. But regardless, they're always kind of fun to look at, and usually the Steelers are middle of the pack or below, and I'm willing to bet that they're going to be way down in that this year.
It is worth pointing out, you jog my memory here, Dave, is I like to use Football Outsiders Special Teams DVOA, which is just their ranking basically of how well the unit performed, and they have the Steelers as 9th, I think it looks like, overall DVOA. So top 10 unit, 27th last year, so they saw a big improvement from the Steelers special teams. Obviously, Boswell just kicking well. I mean, if your kicker sucks and he struggles, you're going to get really dinged in this statistic. And so Boswell bouncing back, having a fantastic season, helps him out. But according to Football Outsiders, the Steelers special teams were a top 10 unit.
Okay, well, yeah, once again, counting I mean, look, I got to admit, when it comes to Boswell, take my hat off and hand it to him, because I get nervous with those kind of things, especially when it comes to kickers, just weird animals, in my mind. So yeah, he bounced back, and there's been a large pushback right now too. It seems to be especially yesterday on Barry. Okay, look, Barry did not close out the season well at all. The final 3 games, right?
Last month, Arizona game on. Basically, ever since that miscommunicated fake punt, it's been just a mess.
Right. Now, prior to that, he was having a good season.
He was having a great season, one of the better seasons in Steelers history. But I think punters often get judged by what they do in December when the weather's bad, as opposed to when it's 60 and sunny outside.
But did the weather ever get bad, other than really the game in the finale against Baltimore?
Well, I mean, that was one of the 4 games. But yeah, I don't know if there was wind and stuff. I mean, that's probably a fair point. But I'm just saying, you want to be judged by how you finish too. He finished as bad as you could possibly finish.
People are saying, well, go ahead and cut him now, so you can save that 1 point after roster displacement. It would be something along the lines, I think, $1.3 million. No. Look, he might not be your punter next year, but you just don't go cutting him right now just for $1.3 million and not have anybody, especially you don't have anybody there replacing him right now either. So he's going to be part of this. I mean, it's hard to imagine him not being part of a least training camp moving forward. And yeah, he did have a bad end to the season, but he also had probably perhaps his best first three quarters of a season as well.
Yeah, the final numbers don't look the best. I think he finished around 16th in average, around 16th in net. The net came down at the end, which was disappointing. But yeah, prior to that, I had written basically I jinxed him because I wrote an article, I think, right before the Cardinals game saying like he was having a historically good season, which he was, and he ended it by not so much of a historically good season, really a historically bad last month of the season.
Okay, so did you get it all out of your system? What did you say? What you wanted to say about the kick return and all?
Yeah, I'm all good there. We can move on, Dave. You wrote an article a couple days ago, just an eye towards the offseason. We talked about some pending unrestricted free agents. On a previous show today, we'll talk about some of the restricted free agents. We did touch on that, kind of trying to get the whole salary cap together in the previous episode. But walk us through some of the key RFAs here, Dave, and kind of their status and what you think is going to happen to these guys.
Yeah, I think leading the list is Mike Hilton, right? A guy that kind of was hoping to get a contract this past offseason, waited a while to sign his exclusive rights free agent tender. You get into this season, boy, he had another good season, didn't he?
Yeah, it was just steady. I mean, one of the best run stuffing nickel corners in football. Picked up, a sack and a half. I mean, coverage, he's not ever an elite guy, and Cam Sutton's a better cover guy, but Hilton is a solid physical dude, and as I've said before, pound for pound, the most physical player on this team.
What does he give you special teams-wise?
He doesn't play a whole lot there. He was on the punt return unit last week, I think, when some injuries happened. They didn't have Marcus Allen. Well, they did have Marcus Allen on there, but they've used Hilton a little bit there, a little bit on kick return game as an outside, like L1 kind of guy, but he's not playing a whole lot there.
All right, with him being a former undrafted free agent, you just can't put the lowest tender on him because you're probably going to lose him that way. So I don't think there's any way around. I mean, you would agree a second round tender is in line, restricted tender is in line for Mike Hilton in the amount of $3.278 million.
Yep, 100%. He's going to get the second round tender.
And I wrote about this last year, that best case scenario for him, because I didn't think he was going to get a deal that he wanted last offseason there, was to play well enough to get himself in line for a restricted tender. And look, I mean, I'm not convinced it will happen. But once he gets that tender, there's nothing to say that they can't sign him to an extension to maybe kind of cut that number down in half. But he is kind of getting up there in age. You would think he's maybe a guy that you look at and say, well, okay, maybe we get one more year out of him, and then that's it. So
how old is?
What is he? 28? How old is he?
I don't know. You said he was getting up there in age. I never had that feeling with Hilton. He's going to be. He's 25.
Oh, okay, he's younger than I thought he was. So, yeah, I mean, look, maybe he is a guy that you get him signed to a restricted tender, or you get him that restricted tender a little over $3 million here, and then on into the summer. I don't think would be anything that would happen before training camp started, with an extension. But if you get into training camp and maybe he's a guy that you add on a couple of years there with a short extension to get his number down. But even with that said, what is his value? I mean, you're going to pay him a little over $3 million on a restricted tender. To get him to sign a long-term deal would probably take about at least $5 million per, and you'd probably have to put about, I don't know, $6 or $7 million in his pocket this year in totality to get him to sign a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where his value is gonna be at. I'm certainly not opposed to a contract extension. He's earned it as much as anybody. Do you feel like it's an either or with him and Cam Sutton? Do you feel like if you sign Mike Hilton to a long-term deal, you're basically saying Cam Sutton's going to walk after 2020 when his contract is up? Or do you think there's a way to try to do both? Or would you say that you would prefer Cam Sutton, so let's not do a long-term deal with Mike Hilton?
Yeah, it's the odds of it being both are probably slim.
Yeah, that's kind of where I come into.
Hilton's been so good against the run though too, man. Yeah, but Sutton really hasn't been asked to do a lot of things closer to the line of scrimmage. I don't guess that Hilton has. So not that Sutton can't do those things. It's just we see more Hilton in those situations.
Well, I don't think Sutton would nearly be as good in that line of scrimmage type of role as Hilton is. He's not nearly the physical player. I mean, he's gotten better, but he's not at Hilton's level. I mean, I have the stat here from the other day. Who were the top DBs since 2017 in sacks?
And tackles for loss, right?
Right, and quarterback hits, and Hilton's second in the NFL, only behind Jamal Adams with 46.5 combined sacks, quarterback hits, and tackles for loss since 2017. The list is top five are Jamal Adams, Mike Hilton, Malcolm Jenkins, Des King, and Von Bell. Some pretty elite company there. So I mean, Hilton is as good around the line of scrimmage as anybody that's a nickel corner in football.
The thing is maybe what you gain in a little bit of coverage aspect with Sutton, you give up with the run defense, with the closer to the line of scrimmage stuff.
Right, and that's why earlier in the year they were taking Hilton out to dime and putting Sutton in there. They wised up and are now using both players in dime packages. But yeah, Sutton's the better cover corner. I guess the way to keep both would be, if you were to say after 2020 something would happen with Joe Hayden and then Sutton could try to step in and be that outside corner to replace Hayden, and that's how you do that. Hilton stays in his nickel spot. But if that's not the scenario, then it is tough to envision keeping both.
Yeah, that's why what you probably just go ahead and do, unless I like Mike Hilton. Is Mike Hilton worth a $5 million average?
Maybe it's debatable, certainly debatable.
That's the top of the scale though, right?
Sorry, there's a train coming. Yeah, I haven't even thought about his value this year. Again, I think he's worth an extension. I don't know exactly what the path is. Do you do it now? It's going to be you got other guys to worry about. TJ Watt you have to worry about. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's played well enough to certainly deserve an extension. I don't know exactly what that number is. I don't know exactly what path you want to take and how you fit that in with Cam Sutton and the plan. I haven't thought about those things right now, but he's played well to earn it. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind about that.
All right. Well, regardless, he's going to get a 3-point. Whatever the tender number comes in. Right now, it's estimated to be 3.278 on a second round restricted tender. We both expect him to get that.
Yep, and we probably expect that for the next guy too, and Matt Fowler, correct?
Yeah, Matt Fowler is also in line for that. And look, all eyes are going to be on what happens with Ramon Foster here in the next couple of weeks and months prior to the start of the new league year in March, and really B.J. Finney as well, because B.J. Finney's scheduled to become a unrestricted free agent. But one easy way to make sure you navigate around this is Matt Fowler, who was your starting right tackle for 15 games this past season, and you're starting left guard for 1 game this season. We would fully expect Matt Fowler to get a second-round tender because of him being an former undrafted. It's too bad some of these guys weren't like fourth round picks, because you'd save a little bit of money there. But yeah, look, you're not really saving all that much money. But what you are getting is retaining a good player in Matt Fowler, who we both believe, if things go a certain way, might end up getting. It's funny how people take our ideas and then run with them across the media landscape here, because I think we were the first ones to talk about Matt Fowler, definitely being able to kick inside there. But regardless, that's probably likely to happen if they say goodbye to Ramon Foster, and if B.J. Finney isn't signed, as Matt Fowler kicks inside the left guard, and then you have someone like Chuks Okorafor and Zach Banner battle it out to be your right tackle next year. But all that aside, we expect Matt Fowler to get a second round restricted tender.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was disappointing the way the Fowler ended the year, but I do want to say that prior to the Bills game, he was having a rock-solid season, just playing really well. I know he graded out well for PFF, for people who like those analytics and grades and things like that. But, yeah, I think Fowler shifting to left guard would be the most sensible thing if you do get rid of Ramon Foster. And, again, Fowler's going to get the tender. There's no doubt about that.
The thing with BJ, how much of the writing was on the wall with B.J. Finney against the Rams when they decided to? That's the biggest question mark I think I have right now when it comes to Finney, is just how the coaching staff really feels about him possibly being a 16-game starter at left guard, or the heir apparent to Ramon Foster, if you will, is just how they went about handling things there in that game against the Rams. If they're telling him he's not good enough to play in that situation, then what other situations would they be uncomfortable with him in? And make no mistake about it, on top of it though too, heading into this year, I've always viewed left guard as being B.J. Finney's best position. He's put some nice games on tape at left guard, and that's why I think if you go ahead and let him walk, there is going to be a team out there willing to pay him, willing to take a chance on him as either their starting center, or B, as either their starting left guard, because I think there's enough of that needed around the NFL.
I'm with you. The reason why I've been so strong in suggesting Filer to shift is for two reasons. One, as you mentioned, is what happened in the Rams game that speaks to a lack of confidence for Finney in all situations. And then just from a financial aspect, if you dump Foster and save the money there, you're just adding that back to your salary cap by signing Finney and probably above that too. So financially, it just doesn't make sense because then you're just having to re-sign Finney and put the tender on Filer. That starts eating up your cap space pretty significantly. So yeah, I think just financially and just based on what they've done, I think that makes the most sense.
And when you go back through, now he didn't play. I remember writing about this in the past. He hasn't played, talk about Matt Filer, a ton of snaps at guard, throughout the preseasons. But there's enough there, and I think I've even said it before during training camps and whatnot. Boy, he looked pretty good at guard,
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's a guy. I don't expect him to be there for the next 5 years, but I think he is a guy that at least can hold down that position for 2020, and we'll see what happens in the draft. If they go young with a guard center type, maybe that's the guy that would be the heir apparent there. But maybe for at least the next year or 2 years, Matt Filer can at least be your left guard, and based on the way Ramon Foster played this past season, not be any kind of a drop off there.
Right, and he brings that similar idea of Foster where he's just such a big, strong guy. He's impossible to get around. He's hard to bull rush, and he's certainly right now a better athlete than Ramon Foster. So you get the benefit of Foster, and plus you eliminate the weakness of Foster by having a better and more mobile player. And you're right, he hasn't played a lot of guard, but he also didn't play much tackle in the preseason. This guy barely played any right tackle in the summer because he was shifting to guard because they wanted to get Chooks reps and Banner reps and see what those guys could do. So, I mean, this is a guy that's used to playing all around and being a Swiss Army knife. And if you make that move and you can probably have him finally settle in at a position and work at left guard throughout the entire summer, I think he'd be ready for week 1 in 2020, no problem.
Man, Ramon Foster, poor Ramon, going to be 34 here in a couple days.
Mm-hmm. I wonder when do they start making their cuts? Is that next month?
It's usually when they do. Kevin Colbert likes to call them deletions.
Oh, does he? That sounds worse than cuts.
It does.
It really does.
It does. Yeah, you delete them. I've always thought the same too, but he always usually refers to them about combine time as deletions. Usually we go into the combine parsing what Kevin Colbert says. So, and that's obviously in the end of February. I guess long story short is I don't expect them to make any deletions prior to the combine. They usually wait and come out of that, and it's usually the week or two, like a week before free agency starts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking at, just for a quick point of reference, Morgan Burnett. On January 19th last year, Burnett requested his release from the Steelers. He wasn't actually cut till April 1st.
Right.
So I guess I think he would show Foster more respect. If I don't know if you're not going to cut him tomorrow, but for a veteran guy, you're not going to let him twist in the wind for after free agency and kind of screw him in that sense. So I think if you cut him, it's going to be well before free agency. But yeah, I don't know when we're going to hear an answer on that.
Well, go back to a year or two before. A good timeline is the whole William Gay year. That was the good timeline. What was that? 2017.
Let me look here. I'm trying to even cobble that together. He was released on March 14th, so that might make sense for Foster if that happens.
Right. So that's kind of, I think, the timeline over the years is the week or 2 weeks before free agency starts. So anyway, Matt Filer, we expect to get a second round tender. One guy is also going to get restricted tender, probably not at a second round level though, is Zach Banner. Zach played quite a bit of tackle eligible, ran a few routes.
Four routes
this past year as well too. He is a guy that, assuming things go down with Matt Filer the way we think that might go down, him and Chukwuma Okorafor would be the prime candidates to battle to be the starting right tackle in 2020. You do not have to, I don't think, tender Zach Banner at a second round level to keep him. All you have to do is tender him at a original round level or a low right of first refusal level is what they call it too, at $2.144 million. It would be utterly surprising if they did not do that with Zach Banner.
Yeah, no, they liked him a lot. Beyond just the cult hero and fan favorite kind of stuff, I thought he was a good blocker. The way he's gotten his weight down, the conditioning he's shown, availability that he's shown. I wonder about versatility, and really, is he just a right tackle, six offensive lineman kind of guy? Could he really play left tackle on Sunday? I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, he's going to get the original round tender.
Well, I'll tell you nowadays, if you better bless me.
Bless.
Excuse me, don't have my kill button in my hand here. But
anyway, you want to restart that, or you want to?
No, I'm just saying. They'll tell you in today's NFL, you better be able to play. Regardless, you can't hide right or left tackles anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless,
well, do you think he could play left tackle?
I don't think we've seen enough to draw the conclusion on it.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to versatility, because if you're not a starter, you better be a really versatile backup, and obviously you can play right tackle, we can play, that six offensive lineman start, but I just don't know how many reps he's got on the left side recently, and I don't know if he can work in kind of that kind of space.
All right, Cameron Canaday is the next, one probably say, why the hell you put a long snapper on here? Well, he is, he's set to be a restricted free agent here. I think the only thing, and you and I had this conversation the other day, is, okay, if you put just the low right of first refusal on him, the 2-point whatever tender on him, do you stand? How big a risk is it that you might end up losing him?
It's not. The reason why I would go with a 2-year deal is to have just a cheaper number and have the control for 2 years. Because 2.1 for 1 year for a long snapper is kind of a decent amount for a team that doesn't have much cap space and flexibility. So I'm not doing this to avoid losing a long snapper. That's not going to happen. I'm just doing this to try to have him for 2 years, not have to go year by year and have this conversation next year, and probably lower that cap hit for year one.
And that's been my thought process all along with him. All along since the season ended.
Last week.
Last week is. Go ahead and do what they did in previous years with guys like Warren about this stage of their career. I think they lock them up for 2 years at a time.
Yeah, how much money would that be? Like $3 million, $3.5 million?
You'd probably give him $3 million this year, in bonus and salary.
So what's the total contract looking like is what I'm asking.
Because
I was thinking the total thing would be like, I don't know, 2 years, $4 million. Is that
well,
too low?
No, because look, if you placed a low tender on him, you're telling him it's 2.1.
Well, I'm not placing a tender on him, is what I'm saying. I would just try to do a long-term deal, or a 2-year deal, I should say.
Right, but he knows the alternative to that is is a tender. I don't know. I think you're looking at about $5 million over 2 years.
Okay, fair enough. But
and what you would end up probably doing is give him. I don't know what his minimum would be, 700 something thousand, 600 something thousand for his time and year would be the minimum base that he could have. And then if you gave him like I don't know, a $2 million sign-in bonus, so you'd be looking at, I don't know, 1.6, 1.7 cap hit, somewhere around in there versus a 2.145 cap hit. So you're not going to save a lot of money. What you're doing too is just preventing him from walking away untouched.
Right, and not having to deal with it next year by having him
right.
Which will be helpful. And then finally, Jordan Dangerfield, which is, I think, a really interesting name on this list.
Boy, a guy that gives you every time you turn around, there he is. He's like the Bud Light Penguin, which I know predates you.
It does. Unless you can hear with Spuds McKenzie, I don't know my beer mascot references too much.
Doobie doobie doo. You need to go back and watch some of those old Bud Ice commercials. I think they were.
That's how I'll spend my weekend.
I can't even get you to watch some of these these classic movies.
A commercial is a shorter attention span. This might be more in my wheelhouse, so you get a better shot here than a full-length movie.
Yeah, but anyway, every time you turn around, that Bud Light Penguin or Bud Ice Penguin was there, and Jordan Dangerfield, I kind of fashion him to be that same kind of guy. You can't get rid of him, And now,
but do you place the tender on him? That's
a tough one, man, and I don't think you do. I
don't either.
But here we are. We're predicting that it'll go the other way. But Good special teams player, a guy that good, better strong safety obviously than free safety, but a guy that has to know that defense like the back of his hand at this point. Heck, he had very few snaps that he played in games this year. He showed up. What was it? A game against the Jets?
Yeah, they came in real late with that 3-safety specialty package, and he made a tackle for loss, I think, on his first snap of that game, which might have been one of his first snaps of the season. He didn't play a lot this year on defense. I would look to bring him back, but not on the tender. That's just too much money. Again, given the cap space, I'd bring him back on a basically minimum deal. And if he doesn't like it, then you let him go. But I can't do the tender for him.
Yeah, it's with what you are up against the cap, it's going to make it tough for him. I won't be surprised if I guess I won't be shocked if they restricted tender him, but I'm not so sure that I would. He wants to stay in Pittsburgh if at all possible. Probably his best chance to make a roster. However, there are teams around the league that value special teamers the way the Steelers do, with the Patriots being one of them. And you remember Ross Ventrone, he spent a lot of time on that Patriots roster going back and forth. And I don't think, I don't know if Jordan Dangerfield would still have classified. I don't think at this point he has any practice squad availability left at this point in time, even on that
exception
on the exception list even at this point now. But I don't guess we need to spend much more time on him, but it could go either way, and I'm willing to bet that they don't restrict it to him.
Yeah, but I hope they try to bring him back in some capacity, because you need those good special teamers, give you some safety depth. Also,
where's your depth? Where's your depth right now?
There's no depth. It's Marcus Allen, who's played 14 career defensive snaps, Dangerfield, and that's it. Behind because Davis is walking, and you got Minka and Edmonds and Dangerfield and Allen. So I think it's a position you have to address in the draft.
And look, usually they tend to, at least Colbert in the past, secure positions as cheap as possible before the draft. We saw it with Mark Barron, obviously last year. We saw it with Moncrief the year before that. We saw it with Bostic and Burnett. Morgan Burnett there. Generally the guys that they fill, those free agents that they go after are the positions they end up drafting on top of it. So could we see a lower level? Look, I mean, is it out of the question that Sean Davis resigns for the minimum?
He's not going to go for the minimum. This dude was a starting safety for the last year and a half before getting hurt. How are you going to go from that to the minimum?
Because he didn't perform.
I mean, he wasn't bad. He was not a playmaker, but he was not this horrible liability that you were saying, get this guy out of here. I mean, he's not signing for the minimum. I'm not sure what he's signing for.
Well, what's he going to sign for across the league then?
I don't know what the number is. It's not going to be the minimum. The safety market's starting to heat up a little bit. So you got a guy that's got versatility and experience and youth. He's 25? I mean, he's not an old guy, obviously, coming off his rookie contract. I mean, that's, those guys don't get on the market that often.
I guess the good thing is there's going to be I think we're going to see this safety market flooded again. It floods every year.
Is it? I don't even know who the top guys are this year.
In other words, I think there's going to be a couple guys that are looking for work here pretty soon too that weren't expecting to. It just seems like every year a couple of them are cut and throw them on a pile, and then we get in past the draft and a couple of them guys are still there. Let's see who's some of the guys that are supposed to be free agents this year.
I'd be interested in the list because again, they need to address it for depth, for dime packages. I know that Cam Sutton gets work at dime, but still if injury happens, it could shuffle things around. So got to address the position.
Let's see if I can get this list pulled up here real quick at safety.
I mean, I know that Trey Boston will do his yearly June signing and then just lead whatever team he signs and tackles. And I'm sure we'll comments about Trey Boston, but
let's see. We know it has to be a guy under 30, right? So here we go. Anthony Harris, Clinton Dix. Oh, Carl Joseph.
Oh yeah, Steelers liked him coming out.
That boy. Go ahead and. Who's going to write about that first, me or you?
Sounds like you. I think you're typing it now. Again, I just worry about what the money situation is going to be because financially they're going to be so cap strapped.
Yeah, but what has he done last? I mean, he's battled a few injuries, hadn't he?
Yeah, but I think he's played better on the back end of his rookie deal, if I remember my Oakland Raider news correctly.
He is definitely a guy the Steelers showed a lot of love in prior to that draft. 27 now. Let's see, coming off of making 2.9. I think part of his was that his rookie contract?
Yeah, this is coming off his rookie deal.
So that's a guy maybe to circle, even though it's still going to be what he wants. You're gonna he's not coming in to start right away, but he could come along and battle Trey Edmonds, right?
Terrell Edmonds.
Terrell Edmonds. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Trey's got the pick, so he kind of feels like more of a safety than Terrell. Yeah, that's possible. Again, from the connection game, the Steelers always go after guys they like him with the draft. They get Steven Nelson in for a pre-draft visit and signed him this past offseason. So that name fits. Again, I just really look at this team financially and say, unless they've done a long-term deal with Bud that's helped lower that year one cap hit, they're going to be just in a really tight spot.
Clayton Gathers.
I like him, but again, I just financially, I'm looking real like what Antoine Exum I think got released the other day, and that was a guy I liked last year. That might be a guy I would go after.
Adrian Phillips has done some nice things with the Chargers.
That ultimate kind of dime player. Yeah.
Let's see, Michael Thomas wasn't Michael Thomas a special teamer that the Steelers showed some interest in?
That was the Matthew Slater Thomas, and they landed on Nat Burhay. So,
Demarius Randall, Jeff Heath, Rontez Miles. Boy, Rontez Miles is already 32 years old.
He's 32?
Is that possible?
So old.
Seems like yesterday he was at the combine. Wasn't he the one with the Steelers tattoo?
Is he? I know he's a Cal U guy. I don't know what his tattoo situation is. Is he really 32? Yeah, he's got the. Oh my goodness, that's nuts. I like Jeff Heath.
Where did the time go with him?
I know, right? Jeff Heath would be. I think he's just kind of. He's like Terrell Edmonds, but worse, which probably isn't a ringing endorsement. But he's just kind of a just solid tackler, physical dude. I don't know what the market's gonna be like for him, but I've always kind of been a fan of Jeff Heath.
Von Bell, I think the Steelers paid a little bit of attention to, but he's probably going to be a little bit higher demand too. And he coming off an injury of some sort too. Did he have an Achilles or something? What was the injury with him?
Well, if he's coming off of an Achilles, then that demand might be lower. I can look up what his situation is. I don't remember any sort of injury with him.
No, he's returning to practice right now with the Saints, so he's coming off of something. So
he's had a knee issue. I don't know how severe it's been.
But I think the Steelers paid him a little bit of mind and all. And boy, when you get through, you start getting down to the bottom of this list.
Well, that's Kevin Colbert's wheelhouse. You got to read that bottom of the list, because the top of the list, most of those guys are getting, like Von Bell's getting paid. I mean, he's not going to be even in the realm, both from a starting capacity and from a financial capacity.
This is a long list here. Worth going over, but there are going to be several names that when we match up to the pre-draft visitor list, there's probably going to be a few names on this list worth digging deeper into. And we know that Steelers normally like to go after guys that they've, shown past interest in, when it comes to that. But, Carl Joseph, a name jumps right off that list, although it still might be too expensive.
Yeah, Jeff Heath was the name that caught my eye of the ones that you rattled off there.
All right, guys that potentially, we'll go ahead and knock this part of it out, being as I just wrote about it. Guys, possibly seeing off-season contract extensions. Bud Dupree. I didn't have Bud Dupree on this list of initially, but when I was reading back through, I said, if I don't put him on this, then someone's going to say, why didn't you put him on this list? But obviously Bud Dupree is scheduled to be unrestricted free agent. So yes, technically he is a candidate to get extended before putting the tag on him. And even after if you do go the route of putting the tag on him, then he becomes a candidate to be a contract extension later on, starting immediately after that there. So I went ahead and just put Bud Dupree on the list so people wouldn't say, why didn't you put Bud Dupree on the list? But generally I was looking this as guys that are that are heading into the final year of their contract. Being 2020. Cameron Hayward, I think, is a guy, without a doubt. I will be shocked if they do not give Cameron Hayward a contract extension, and maybe even sooner rather than later, because they can get a little bit of cap savings there involved with him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer. You save money. Your leader playing so well, no doubt about it. Hayward is going to get a deal done.
Now, I got a little bit of pushback here. I think I view his market value as right around what Cameron Jordan's is in New Orleans there. You know, he just this past, I think it was during this past season, he signed an extension. I think $18 million per is the number with Cameron Hayward. Are you going to push back any on that?
No, really, you could throw any number at me, and I would say he's worth it. I mean, this is probably the last big-time deal he's going to sign, because as good as he is, you say he's going to turn 31 in May. There's a lot of wear and tear on those tires, but still playing at a high level.
Yeah, I don't see how you get around I think $18 million is the floor with him, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and obviously it's going to be a little bit challenging putting that deal together with the 30%, rule and all like that. But I think you can still make that happen. I think you maybe can save, get a little modest cap savings in 2020 in the process. So you'll be shocked if they don't. By the time the regular season rolls around, you'll be shocked that they don't have him signed to an extension, right?
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
All right, the next guy on the list, and another guy got pushback from, a guy that you and I talked about, I guess fairly frequently here towards the last end of the bottom end of the season here. Alejandro Villanueva, man, is he a top 10 tackle in the league, or is he a top 5 left tackle in the league? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But I think bottom top 10 to top 15 he is.
Yeah, I would put him probably in terms of left tackles right around 10-ish, I would say. Again, I don't have a list. I don't watch other left tackles, obviously, as closely as I do Pittsburgh. I think the thing you put here is, you said, can they really expect him to be happy playing for $5 million in 2020? And he's probably not going to be happy with that, but is that a compelling enough reason to do something when you have other guys to worry about? I think that's the real big question.
Well, I mean, what you want to pay guys what they're worth, and look, they got a couple of years discount with him for sure, mm-hmm. because they were able to take advantage of his free agency classification, being excluded. They had his hands tied behind his back. They had the Army Rangers, mm-hmm. The Army captain's hands tied behind his back for a couple of years there, and look, the system is slanted for them to do so. Okay, mm-hmm. But he's more than a $5 million per season tackle.
He is, but you talk about leverage. Well, who has the leverage right now? It's still the Steelers. They got control for another year, and if they don't want to do anything, they don't have to. I mean, Villanueva can threaten to hold out, but I don't think he's going to take that route.
Right.
So.
There's nothing that says they have to do anything with him, but he is entering the final year of his contract here. Man,
because if he wants a new deal, he wants to get paid and make up for that discount that he took. And can you make it work with all the other guys? I'm not saying you can't, but that's what it really comes down to with him.
They've restructured him too, which and look, it's not his fault that his cap hits $8.39 million this year. Okay, mm-hmm. And here's the conundrum. Even if you felt sorry for him and you wanted to pay him, let me ask you this. What is his true market value right now?
Well, the nature of the position is obviously up there. I mean, you have the number here about, you say, quote, at worst, Villanueva should have a $12 million per season average come the start of the 2020 regular season. And I think that's fair. But again, are the Steelers willing and able to pay that? It's the real big question.
But you agree that number's fair. I'm getting a lot of pushback on that number. I mean, what's the top of what's the top of the market when it comes to when it comes to left tackles right now?
Yeah, I don't know that, and so it's hard for me to exactly frame that. And the number doesn't scream that it's unfair to me. I know that the natural reaction from a lot of fans will be, "Oh no, he's not worth that much." But it's a left tackle position. Starting left tackle, they're not cheap. So I don't know where that would slate him league wide. If that would slate him in the top.
Put him top 10, right, with David Bakatari.
Yeah, okay. Well, then, yeah, that seems fair.
And Eric Fisher with the Chiefs. He would be right there alongside, tied for 10th in the league, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, the issue is not, would he in a vacuum be worth that kind of money? It's just, can you really get it done, and do you have the incentive to get it done when you have so many other guys you got to attend to?
It is a conundrum for sure because doing something with him and then adhering to the 30% rule is probably going to result in his cap hit going up $3 million. So do you do Cameron Hayward and take that savings and cap savings and kind of put it towards Alejandro Villanueva, and that's the wrong way to look at it. I'm just looking at it because most people look at it from a salary cap standpoint, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to look at that element. If you're Omar Khan, that's how you're viewing this thing, and that you're washing it if you go Hayward and Villanueva with long-term deals. So I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, if anything does happen, it's not going to be until the summer. Stuff we don't have to worry about right now. By then, we'll have more clarity with Dupree. Hopefully, Dupree's on a long-term deal that helps lower that hit, that gives you some more flexibility, but you can't really assume that right now. I think this is the most interesting name on the list in terms of I'm not sure what's going to happen with him.
Right, I try to rank these as far as probability goes as well too. Would you put him where I have him on the list from a probability standpoint? Looking at these names,
I think Watt is more likely to get a deal done than Villanueva.
All right, we'll get to him in a minute here, but here. And
I think Canada is too. I know that's a more minor thing, but
right, and I'm surprised there are people don't have people hollering at me putting Canada long snapper on this list here, but look, they're going to have a decision to make, and regardless, even if Villanueva were to get extended, it wouldn't be something we wouldn't expect anything like that to happen until they got to training camp, right?
Correct. Yeah, nothing's going to happen now. You're going to see what happens with Dupree. Everything else, none of that stuff's going to happen until the summer.
All right, I shoehorn Cameron Canada right in the middle of this list because I think there's a decent, even though he's a soon to be restricted free agent. You and I just had the pretty decent talk the last two shows about him, so let's not spend much time on him. But I think there's a high probability. Look, it might even be announced today or next week. Go ahead and get him knocked out before having to put the restricted tender on him. We'll see. The next two are really in the same boat here, Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner, and both of them probably heading into this season. We thought, well, if these guys put up seasons similar to what they had in 2018, both these guys will probably be in line for contract extensions after the 2019 season is over. Well, yeah, that didn't go as planned. So now we're looking at two guys that are probably the best case. Look, Juju's not hurting money-wise. He's got Pizza Hut and Twitch and I don't know what else is he hawking these days. Everything under the sun. He's not hurting for money right now, I wouldn't think. Not something that would make him settle for a medium to below market potential value with him. And James Conner can't stay healthy, and he even missed out. Look, he had a primo opportunity this season to ensure that he got himself a raise over $2 million with a proven performance escalator, and he couldn't even hit that, So I think both of us will be surprised if they sign Juju or James Conner to an extension this offseason, correct?
Yep, I would be. I don't think it's going to happen for either guys, for Conner, because the team's not going to make that commitment for Juju because he's not going to bet. He's going to bet on himself and not take a contract now when his value is super low.
Right. Now, I put both of them on this list for obvious reasons because they are candidates to some degree.
Sure.
And if I had not put them on there, people say, well, why didn't you put those guys on there? All right. TJ Watt is at the bottom of this list, and it's going to be an interesting look. Regardless if he's done enough to win the annual Defensive Player of the Year award, this guy is easily one of the top 5, 10 players in the NFL, defensive players in the NFL. Would you go 5? Can I get a top 5?
I don't know. He's right up there. He's an emerging. He's already a star. I mean, he's one of the just emerging brightest stars in football. Worth every penny that he's going to eventually earn. And I think that you do him now in the summer as opposed to waiting another year because he's value and price is only going to go up, and it's just a matter of exactly how high of a contract he's going to get.
Yeah, and here's the pushback here though is, all right, technically right now at this, as we sit here today, 2020 is his last year of his rookie contract, but we know that him being a former first rounder comes with a 5th-year option that would have to be picked up this offseason. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to make the decision on whether or not to pick that up. So, do you want to get into the semantics of the Steelers? Is he technically 1 year out or is he 2 years out?
Right.
And to get into the Steelers don't give extensions to players other than franchise quarterbacks 2 years out, blah, blah, blah. You look around some of these other players. How long did Aaron Donald have to wait?
Yeah, I don't know what other players had to do, but other organizations might handle things differently. So I'm just saying, the sooner you do want, the cheaper it's going to be because his value is only going to go up. Now, again, you could sit there and say, well, let's get another year of him being super, super cheap, and we got to deal with Bud this year, and we just can't do both in the same offseason, and that would be fair. But he's going to get paid at some point, just a matter of when.
Well, I mean, you're talking out of two sides of your mouth now, right? with Alejandro Villanueva and what?
Well, if you consider Villanueva a Watts caliber of player, then I guess I'm being a hypocrite. I don't consider those guys one and the same.
Well, I'm just saying you're talking about take advantage of what the situation. Nothing says that they have to give Watt a new deal.
No, I'm not saying that they will, but I'm just saying is Watt's going to be locked up long term. Villanueva might not be, and he's going to be older, and he's not anywhere near Watt's caliber of play. So is there some hypocrisy there? I don't really think so, but even if there is, I mean, the two different circumstances. You have to be consistent here. Watt is a guy that certainly is, again, a top 5 defensive player in football, and Villanueva is not. So the situations, I think, are different because the players are different.
Well, all the points that you make are ones that I've said as well too and written about. The thing is, after all that, I don't know which way this is going to go.
Mm-hmm. And again, if it does happen, it won't be till the summer.
You wouldn't think, right?
I mean, I just can't see any way it wouldn't happen. Right. The earliest would happen is right before training camp.
If you had to bet which way this would go with him, it's kind of a unique situation with him, but.
Yeah.
With the whole 5th-year option and all, obviously if he didn't have that 5th-year option hanging over it here, it would make it a lot easier. But he doesn't. So which way is this going to go?
I don't know. Obviously, here's my guess. I'll give you that just this me thing off the top of my head. If Dupree plays on the tag this year, Watt will not get an extension. If they can work out a long-term deal with Dupree, I think they find a way to do it with Watt too, if that makes any sense.
I think regardless, he doesn't get it this year.
Yeah. Okay.
But because from a who knows what the CBA will offer you as far as leniency on kind of being able to structure something. Not that it would really affect the way the Steelers structure deals is the way the Steelers structure deals.
Mm-hmm. I can't see the CBA changing.
And that. Barring some, percentage, guarantee or stipulation being put in there, I don't know, and I don't know how CBA negotiations might, how the way the organization feels that might sway their decision to get it done now versus later.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. Long story short. He is a guy that could potentially be viewed as a candidate to get an extension this offseason. I don't have a great guess as far as which way it would go. History of the organization would tell you that he won't get it done this year. But that's only viewing him as technically being a guy whose contract's not going to end until after the 2021 season because of the 5th-year option.
Has any Steeler gotten a long-term deal prior to the 5th-year option being exercised? In the new CBA, yeah.
No, because that started 2011. Cam Hayward was the first one on that. He received his 5th-year option.
Okay. Did he play on that?
No, he did not play on it. No, he did not play on the option.
Okay, so let me phrase it this way: has anyone ever gotten an extension prior to playing on their 5th-year option?
No.
Cam has? No. Wait, what?
Well, what I'm saying, you're saying the year before. The way you're phrasing is kind of confusing.
Well, okay, so the situation Watt is in now, where he's a year out from that 5th-year option, has anyone ever gotten an extension during this time that Watt's in right now in Pittsburgh?
Not right now, no.
Okay, so yeah, the history is working against Watt, but of course Watt is a special player, so maybe an exception is going to be made here.
And you go back to Cameron. Really, Cameron Hayward didn't kind of flourish right until year 4, right, of his. I mean, he obviously didn't become the player as quick as Watt has.
Yeah, that's the other component too. Is that obviously over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen the ways rookies play is different. They're on the field right away, so it is kind of uncharted territory in that sense because Hayward wasn't becoming an emerging player until very late in his rookie deal, and Watt, he's already that guy now.
My gut tells me they're going to say, TJ, we're sorry, brother, but you're going to have to wait. We're going to make it worth your while, obviously, but you're going to have to wait.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. Again, any answer to that question won't happen until right around training camp at the earliest.
And obviously, as we talked about, and I put down here in the summary down here, while anything's possible, some restricted free agents here that we talked about could possibly get an extension after the fact. I mean, that's not going to be a long list anyway. On top of it, you would think maybe a guy like Hilton would probably stand the best chance, probably less so than probably more so than Filer, right? Filer, you're just going to get, you're going to give that second round tender to and just see how things go, right? You're not going to get in a hurry to sign him to an extension.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they did, but more likely than not, they're just going to let him put the tender on him and let that be that.
All right, I think we wasted a good 35, or not wasted, but used up a good 30, 35 minutes on talking about restricted free agents and off-season contract extension candidates.
All right, there you go, Dave. You want to talk briefly about an article yesterday on Steelers Depot about 6 plays that helped doom the Steelers' 2019 season.
Yeah, and a lot of these, I'm sure, are making people sick to have to revisit them. But look, I don't know what you think about lists, and obviously you can add to it. You could grow this to, you could turn this 6 into 16
I could put the final 3 games of the season on this list.
Real quick. But look, I think it starts in week 2 with that pass to the short left to Juju Smith-Schuster. At the time, ho-hum, just a 12-yard pass. Here we go, and then Roethlisberger grabs for his elbow. And I think what is significant, little did we know, right in that very moment, I mean, I think we all went, uh-oh, but little did we know that just a few plays later, Roethlisberger's season would be over with.
Yep, I mean, that's obviously the one that transformed the Steelers season, no question about that.
I think you could go through that game against the Seahawks and put and remember, it's hard. We're thinking back, and it's funny when you start going back through these game books and reliving. I don't know about you, but I can visually pick up if you put me in a certain part in the game book, I can visually pick up the game at that point there. And at halftime they led that game.
Yeah, I think about Russell Wilson scrambling on them late in that game is how that one ended.
Yeah, what a key play that was. Them letting the running back get loose for the
Penny for the 30-something yard touchdown.
For the touchdown was a key play. What about the drop, the clang off of Dante Moncrief's hands that got intercepted? What a big play that was. I think a lot of people will look back at the challenged pass interference play. The reason I'm over that, even though I don't, I think it should be analyzed as a play that shouldn't have been overturned based on other things we saw throughout the season here when it comes to challenging such is I think you got to look back on that same play. Was Bud Dupree was not called for the helmet contact on Russell Wilson. That's why I'm over that, But I can see where some people will kind of would want to kind of circle that, but easily I think the play of the game was Roethlisberger getting injured.
Yep, the play that defined the season.
All right, moving forward into week 3, I don't see how there's any way around putting this play on the list. And Steelers had the ball with a 20-17 lead on the road in week 3 against the 49ers with 5:36 left in the game. It was 1st and 10 at the Steelers' 24-yard line. The Steelers defense had forced five turnovers in that game. Up until that point, and James Conner fumbles the football, tackled, punched out from behind by Eric Armstead. What a huge play that was. Look, they're probably not going to drive down and score any points on that game, but it's first down. You're gonna be able to kill a little bit of clock there. Who knows? Maybe you get a first down or two, and more than anything, you probably safely punt away the football and put the ball back in the hands of your defense in that situation. Didn't happen. You turn over the football with plenty of time left, and like 7 plays later, the 49ers are in the end zone with the lead.
Yeah, that was a weird one because Connor actually showed pretty good ball security on that play. He wasn't being loose with it. It was just a great punch out and unfortunate moment. But, for Connor, you've had a couple of those unfortunate fumbles late in games over the last two seasons.
I mean, big play in that game, right? I mean, if he doesn't fumble today, look, we don't know how these things would have played out, but what would their win probability have been at that point of the game?
I think they win that game if Connor doesn't fumble. I don't want to put all the blame on him, obviously, but I think if he holds on to the football, the Seagulls win that game.
All right, week 5 against the Ravens. Boy, you lose Mason Rudolph in that game to concussion. The birth of the duck happens right there in front of your eyes in the third. The hatching of the duck happens right there in early in the third quarter of that game. Defense did you look at Lamar Jackson's rushing numbers. Probably you don't feel like they did that great of a job, but overall they did. You look at the times they sacked them, intercepted them in that game. You boil this down, you got yourself into overtime in this game. You first down completion to Juju Smith-Schuster looks like it's going to go just shy or just into Ravens territory there, and up comes Marlon Humphrey and punches the football out. The ball bounces back into Steelers territory a good bit, and the Ravens obviously recover it, and they really recovered it. The game was over at that point because they were already in Justin Tucker kind of field goal range, if you will. What a big play that is. It's hard to assume and guarantee that the Steelers gain, I don't know, what would they need? Another 18 yards to be in field goal range, 15 yards, whatnot. But it sure was looking good for the Steelers to steal an overtime win at home against the Ravens up until Juju fumbles in overtime.
There was, and again, we've seen some costly fumbles from Juju. The crazy thing is just the bounce the ball took, how it just stayed in bounds so perfectly. It didn't roll out when it easily could have. I mean, that's the part that was just insane to me. But
you had Bionic Ben trying to do his work on that one.
Right. I still I have that image replaying in my head right now when you're talking about it. That one obviously very, very costly.
I mean, that was a huge play in the 2019 season that, they came away with a loss. The next one I have on this list is probably one, I'll probably get pushback from you on this. I'm fine with it, but it's one that continues to stick in my head. And fast forwarding all the way to week 11 against the Browns, the infamous Myles Garrett helmet game there. But there was a point in that game early in the fourth quarter where you already lost Deontay Johnson. You'd already lost Juju to injury in that game. You had already tried to take a couple deep shots that maybe should have been caught. You already had the interception, I think, on the flea flicker on that game that was a little slightly underthrown that resulted in being picked off. But even so, there's a point in that game where you're down just 7 points early in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I know Mason Rudolph had thrown 2 interceptions at that point. One was the flea flicker, which is kind of forgivable in my eye. The other one, I think, was the one thrown behind Tevin Jones that the linebacker got there. But all that aside, the kid didn't look like he was finished at that point. Threw a deep pass down the left side of the field to Johnny Holton. And to me, it was a catchable football. What if Johnny Holton makes that catch in the end zone?
We said that statement a lot this year with Johnny Holton. Yeah. What if he makes that catch? Poor Johnny Holton. That would obviously been a big one. The play that I'll think about from that game is actually the play right after that, the 4th and 1, where Mason Rudolph misses an open Johnny Holton over the middle of the field. Might not have been a touchdown, but certainly would have been a conversion and probably a big gainer. And that's the play where I first went with Rudolph and Rudolph, it's not looking too good. That's a really, really bad rep in a critical moment. So I think about the play actually right after that, but this is a good one too.
All right, can we tie both those together then into one play and have really kind of a significant series moment in the game there?
Yeah, I think you absolutely could.
Yeah, look, I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't guess that would be on the list, and I understand that. All right, fast forward to week 15, the Wildcat, deep inside the 2-minute mark of the first half there. You knew going into this game it was going to be a defensive battle. You knew points were going to be a premium. In this, why do you put James Conner in this situation along with a rookie wide receiver and Deontay Johnson? The whole thing, and I know it's easy to look at this as results biased because of the way it turned out. But even if this play goes for a touchdown or just one, retention of the football. What a poor decision by Randy Fichtner in this. And then obviously the outcome being a fumbled football. You come away, instead of coming away with maybe 3 or 7 points, you come away with 0. Huge point in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I go back to with this season and how kind of defined it is, the offense's mission this year, losing Ben, was don't turn the football over. And what did they do? They turned the football over in every single game, and maybe none as important and critical as this one. I think it's a great, terrible choice in the sense of being on this list.
And I get you could pick off some of the couple of late interceptions in that game or whatnot, but I really think by you not coming away with points in a deep, how many deep drives were you going to get on them in this game? Just regardless there, but and
then just the call and the idea,
right, the whole enchilada, if you will, it smells bad, especially here we are 4 weeks removed from it now. You go into the game with all this hope, and really this. I consider this play that fumble but this was the beginning of the end right here.
Yeah, it really was.
And look, I go back to that Ravens game early in the season. Yeah, I wanted to put that Wildcat play in there. The
Samuels interception.
Right, the Samuels interception. You could make a case for that belonging on this list as well too. And I kind of hedged a little bit here on the sixth and final one, Alex. But you look at the end of that game against the Jets. As poorly as the offense played in that game, you're one play away, right? And how many, you talk all the time, your playmakers got to make plays in key moments of games sometimes for you to win games. Sometimes that's the difference in a win or a loss in these games. And I think when you go back through that tape several times and you get towards the end of that game and you look again at that deep pass from Devlin Hodges to James Washington, it would have taken a good catch, but the ball did hit a guy in both of his hands, and a guy that I talked all season about, or really since he's been drafted. Boy, this guy's got lobster crackers, if you will. The ball hit him in both hands, and it took kind of an out of position Marcus May. And I don't want to take anything away from the play Marcus May made on this play because it was phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. But you drafted that guy because of his hands to make plays just like that, and he couldn't make it.
Yeah, it's a play Washington had. Now, I agree, it's a great play by Marcus May, but there are not many times where you're down, with the Steelers down in that game, 4 or 7. 6, 10, right? So,
yeah, you win the game if essentially you win the game if he makes his play.
Yeah, it's not many times with less than a minute to go you go one-on-one, deep ball to your receiver against the safety. Usually bracket coverage, you're not going to get beat deep if you're the Jets on that play, but you got a great look, a good play call. Didn't make the play. That one was a killer because that's a play that Washington, I'm sure, sits there and says, I got to make that play.
Right. And look, I realized the play before it was a juju play, but that was a less catchable of a ball, in my opinion. The thing is you had this ball that hit him in the hands.
Yeah.
So
you know what sticks out to me about this list overall? I know it's kind of obvious, but you know what sticks out about it?
Offense, right?
Yeah, I was going to say all offensive plays. And I guess that makes sense considering, how bad this offense was, how great this defense was, but all 6 on the offensive side of the football.
I mean, we already talked about the penny run early. It's hard to get away from these because of how well the defense played throughout the season. Especially,
You
Go
know
ahead.
the one I would put on there from the defense, and this is just from a bad call standpoint, was the Ola hit on Lamar Jackson that
Yeah,
kept their drive
exactly.
alive.
Exactly. I think you could make a great argument for that. I mean, if you were to build a look, I mean, you could still throw out one of mine from the six here and probably put that in there
Right.
as well. But that being more of a judgment ref
Sure.
call,
Right.
makes
But
so.
if they didn't call that, it would have been what I think 4th and 7 or 3rd and forever. I mean, I forget what the scenario would have been, but it really let them tie that game up.
It really changed the complexion of that drive. Yes,
Yep.
indeed. So, is there any other defensive plays maybe that kind of stick out?
The Browns.
Here's the thing too. I mean, you could build. Obviously, this is a what if hypothetical, and you can certainly reverse it for other teams as well too. What if Adam Vinatieri makes that field goal at the end of the into the Colts game?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could put obviously defensive plays on there. I think about some of the Baker Mayfield plays in that first matchup on 3rd down, scrambling, keeping the drive alive. I think about John Brown's long catch against Steven Nelson that helped Buffalo win that game. But I think all these plays are on this list are worthy, and just considering how bad the offense was, and they were obviously the weak link to the season, it's fair to put the focus on the offensive side of the football.
It just and yeah, I mean we promised to exit this hypothetical what if world here super quick in the next minute, but man, you just make one or two of these plays, maybe you're in the playoffs. Maybe we're talking about the upcoming Steelers wild card game versus the New England Patriots. That'll make you sick about thinking about that right now at this point, but. Look, I think it just goes to show you when you go back and relive this, how precious one play can make a difference in really a lot of games on a week-to-week basis. And you hear Mike Tomlin sometimes say after press conference, 3, 4, 5 plays sometimes decide a ball game here. And I don't think it was any different here. And you just wish that some of your key offensive players, your James Conner, your Juju's, your James Washingtons. If they make a few of these plays in these games, you have a little bit different season, perhaps.
Yeah, margin for error in the NFL is razor thin, and this season proved it.
All right, what else? What other direction you want to go here?
Well, before we get to some read emails, I think we want to make our picks for the week and talk some playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs. And obviously this is the point too. I think where we have to pick out because I'm not to pat myself on the back, but I think it was at this point that I told you that New England Patriots were going to win it all last year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be as clairvoyant this time around here.
I think picking the Patriots to win a Super Bowl has been an easy bet this decade.
Yeah, really went out on a limb there, didn't you, Dave? Okay, we'll start here with the Buffalo Bills, and we got a little bit of time to kind of get a little bit maybe deeper into digesting these. Buffalo Bills on the road against the Houston Texans here. Houston Texans at home, laying 2.5. Tell me about this game.
Are we picking it just straight up? Or are we still doing the line?
We're still doing the line, but you're going to tell me who, why, and how, and when.
I don't know. This one's tough. I kind of lean Buffalo just because that defense are so fundamentally sound. Obviously, you saw that when they came and played Pittsburgh and just how well coached they are from Sean McDermott and Dabble, the offensive coordinator. I mean, they're just a really sound team. The game plans well. And Houston, I should say, I still worry about that offensive line a little bit. That defense, I know they're getting J.J. Watt back. I don't know. My feeling is that I know they're going to be playing on the road, but I feel like I'm going to go with Buffalo in this one.
You're going to pick. I mean, go ahead and tell me who you think is going to win too. But I mean, you're taking Buffalo plus the points here, right?
Yeah. Yes to both.
And you're picking them to win outright as well too. Here's the thing: when you look at how I like looking at defensive adjusted net yards, passing attempt, and differential stats, especially when we get into more really when you get into playoff time here. Houston has the worst differential, believe it or not. They had the worst defense of the list of 12 teams in the playoffs, and the worst differential as well too at -0.8. So at least the number didn't let me down. Look, you better have a differential of of a -1 or greater if you want to think about getting in the playoffs. Now, you can, depending on how good your offense is, you can make the playoffs obviously with a defensive adjusted net yard per passing attempt stat of over 6. The odds of you winning it all though with that number is few and far between. The Texans 7.1. Defensive adjusted. Now here's the thing, kind of working in the Bills' favor is they have the third best defense on the list when it comes to that stat. However, they have the worst offense here. So is there? We talk, or at least I talk every year. How many games can your team win you if you have an offense that's suffering? How many times during the playoffs can a team, your unit on the offensive side of football, on the opposite side of football, win a game for you? Right. This, I think, will have to be that game for the Bills. I envision Watt coming back and just causing that right tackle. Who's going to be that right tackle? Ford?
Yeah, I like Cody Ford. I think he's played well.
Okay. I think Watt's going to be a huge, he's obviously not going to play every snap, but I think with a young quarterback in there, I guess what I'm getting at here is I think the Buffalo Bills offense is going to be the Achilles heel in this one. I like Nuke. I like Watson and what they're going to be able to do. I think they're going to be able to run the ball just enough in here. I like the Texans to win this by a field goal, Alex. I think this is going to be a good game to watch, for sure. But I have my doubts about that Bills offense and such a young quarterback in here, and I think that's going to be the difference in that game. So give me Houston to win this, actually, and cover the 2.5. I had them winning it by a field goal.
All right, fair enough.
All right, Tennessee Titans, the other wild card game. Tennessee Titans, AFC wild card game. Tennessee Titans at New England. New England favored by 5 in this.
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously the Patriots offense has struggled so much. Edelman's dinged up, but I mean, to pick against the Patriots when they're at home against a Titans team that, yes, is good, but I mean, the Patriots defense has been just insane. Gilmore on A.J. Brown should help neutralize his impact. I know Gilmore had some issues with Devontae Parker in Week 17, but still he's been fantastic this year. It's just hard to go against the Patriots in Foxborough, so I'm going to go with New England.
Their defense, best, I know they had their problems towards the end there, but still best defense in the league, adjusted net yards per passing attempt, 3.5 for the Patriots. However, isn't Tannehill the one that's had the most over the years kind of success in beating New England?
Has he? I mean, obviously, I know.
I think he's got a nice little tasty couple of wins there against Patriots. I still don't think it's enough, and I know the Patriots have had their offensive woes, throughout the season and all, but they are playing at home. They do have a good defense there. As long as they're what are you focusing to do with Tennessee? Take away Henry or Brown?
Well, I mean, I think when you have Gilmore, it really gives you a lot of options because you have that lockdown type of corner. So you're going to have Chung in the box a lot to try to stop Henry, and then I think you can play a lot of island coverage with Gilmore, or relief, maybe bracket him, single everybody else, and have an extra guy in the box. Like I think there's ways you can do both, and the Patriots are good at coming up with those kind of game plans, and they bracket and cone better than maybe any defense in football. So it's tough, but if there's a team that can take away both, it's New England.
This comes down to worrying if Tennessee can score enough points.
Well, I mean, it really comes down, can the Patriots just can their offense perk up enough just to, let their defense, have a lead and get after Tannehill?
Right. What I'm getting at is I think New England can score like 16 in this and it'd be enough.
Right.
And in fact, I'm with you. I have New England winning this and covering the 5 points. I think this ends up being like a 6 or a 7 point game overall here. All right, Minnesota Vikings. This should be a good one. Minnesota Vikings on the road. Go to New Orleans. New Orleans favored by 8.
I think the Vikings are going to cover this one, but I'm going to go with the Saints for the victory again to play in New Orleans. It just has anyone found a way to shut down Michael Thomas? I know the Vikings have Xavier Rhodes, but he has not played as well this year as past seasons. I worry about the backfield for Minnesota, the health of Dalvin Cook. I know they've rested him for Week 17, but still, I don't know if he's exactly 100%. And I just don't. I mean, Kirk Cousins in that kind of moment, it's hard to really trust him over Drew Brees. So I'm going to go with the Saints, but I have to believe the Vikings will cover.
Yeah, look, both these teams, when you look at their adjusted net yards per passing numbers on both sides of the football, they really are balanced here. You know, they have really close resemblance of numbers. Their differential, the Saints 1.9, the Vikings a little bit better at 2.2. I think the difference may be having to play on the road. Well, here's the thing: the Vikings at least have some experience of playing in a loud place of their own. You know, and I think that will help them to some degree in this. But when you have two teams as kind of evenly matched on paper as these are statistically, give me the team with the better quarterback. And I think the team with a better quarterback here is the New Orleans Saints. So give me the Saints to win, but give me the Vikings to cover. And I think that's basically what you just said as well, too, right?
Yep, we're in the same boat there.
All right, Seattle on the road against Philadelphia. Philadelphia at home, 2.5 points they're getting at home.
I mean, it's hard not to go with Seattle. I think I'll be one of the more popular upset picks of the weekend, even though they're on the road. Just with how beat up the Eagles have been, they were playing in a weak NFC East that kind of really got them to this point at 9-7. The only team at 9-7 or one of two teams make the playoffs, I should say. 9-7, the Titans for the wild card, the other, but the only divisional winner at 9-7. Yeah, even though Seattle's backfield's hurt and you had Marshawn Lynch, again, better quarterback, and I just think a better team overall.
Yeah, and Philadelphia 6.4, second highest when it comes to defensive adjusted net yards per passing stat there. That obviously not good. They've had some issues offensively at times too, being able to put things together. I think
that secondary can't tackle. Yeah, they got bad receivers, they got bad cornerbacks. You can't win the NFL that way.
And look at I mean, can you name their wide receivers in Philadelphia?
It's like Greg Ward, Arcega Whiteside. I mean, they've had so many injuries. I don't even know who's available to them right now. So it's pretty poor. I mean, it's really their tight ends, and I think Zach Ertz is he even going to play? Because he had rib,
kind of a rib or something like that.
Is he? What's his status like?
I think he's kind of questionable for sure.
I think he's on the wrong side of questionable. Last I saw. So yeah, I mean that is their main cog in the passing game. And if he doesn't play, then that's stick a fork in him.
And Seattle obviously has a little bit better Lockett and Metcalf, few better weapons over there. And I think once again this is going to come down to who has a better quarterback here, and I think that's the Seahawks. So I'm with you. I think the Seahawks go into Philadelphia, they win this outright, and I think Seattle covers the spread as well too.
All right, I'm with you.
All right, now let's pick the rest of the playoffs here. Who's going to be in the Super Bowl and who's going to win it?
Oh, wow. I got to go first for these things. I'm bad with these predictions. I'm bad with a lot of predictions. That's not a surprise. I know obviously I was going to pick Baltimore, and they're a great team, and I've been so impressed by the job that they've done. But to be a little different, I'm going to go with the Chiefs as a team, on the rise. Their run defense has improved. Their defense as a whole has improved. So from the AFC, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. From the NFC, I'm going to go a little more chalk here with the 49ers, which is how good that defense is, that defensive line, schematically, how well Kyle Shanahan orchestrates things, and I don't see another team that really sticks out to me enough. So I'm going to say Chiefs and 49ers in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to go with, who do I want to go with here? I'll say the Chiefs, but that's a tight one.
So a new quarterback, you have a new quarterback, one that's never won a Super Bowl before, winning it. I think either way, I mean, as long as Tom Brady stays out of this, and
it's gonna be a new quarterback. Well, Aaron Rodgers,
Breeze, I guess, as well. Yeah, that's another thing too. Is we're not. What scares you the most about Green Bay right now?
It just when they turn it on, they just find ways to win. Like they've been a team that's looked bad at times. I think I saw a tweet the other day that said, "How are the Packers 13-3?" And I agree. I don't know how they're 13-3, but that's a team that just knows how to win tight games, and that's the mark of a good group. And they got Aaron Jones and in the backfield, some really talented receivers, a defense that can play well when they're playing well. They're just they for a rookie head coach, they find ways to win.
All right. Boy, it's hard to pick against that 3.5 number that the Patriots have defensively. I mean, I know the Patriots have had their problems on the offensive side of football and all, but I don't think there's any way. Who would they have to who would they have to play, assuming they get past the Titans? Who would they have to play more than likely?
I think the Chiefs. I think it would be Patriots and Chiefs because they'd be the higher seed.
Okay. There's no way that they would have to, if they face Baltimore, it would be in the championship game, right?
Probably, yeah. I think.
The Baltimore Ravens, everything runs through Lamar Jackson. That's to me, and if they get in a position where they have to score points, you kind of wonder, if they were to get in a boat race. And I think that defense is good enough that is complementary. I guess what I'm getting to here is I think Baltimore will be in the AFC Championship game, and I bet that they're in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. And somehow, some way, are you going to beat Bill Belichick twice in that instant? Patriots are extreme underdogs here going into these playoffs, and I think it's mostly because of their offense, right?
Oh, yeah, it's 100% because of their offense.
You know what? I'm going to take the Patriots to come out of the AFC, and I'm going to take the Saints to come out of the NFC.
Any particular reason for New Orleans?
Just because of that offense, man. I think the offense, can get it done there. And then in the Super Bowl, give me the Saints over the Patriots.
So you have the Patriots getting so close, but not going to get that seventh Lombardi, which would be okay with me. I saw the stat the other day. The Patriots had never won a Super Bowl without having the bye week to start the playoff race. So I think they're 3-3 when they don't have the bye week in a playoff. So I think that's going to hurt them too.
Here's the thing. I think this is an extremely hard year to handicap this because of the Patriots' offense.
I'm with you.
When you look at a lot of these teams, especially the ones at the top, the ones. Look, I don't think the Titans can win it because of their defense. I don't think the Seahawks can win it because of their defense. The Packers are borderline team because of their defense. I think the Buffalo Bills will be out because of their offense. I think the Texans will be out because of their defense. I think the Eagles will be out because both sides of the football with them as well too. So I think this comes down to your Super Bowl winner obviously being either the Chiefs, the Patriots, the 49ers. You kind of wonder about the 49ers being able to can they run with can they get in a scoring battle with teams. I think the same thing could go with the Vikings and the Ravens as well too. So which team?
Do you think the Ravens can't get in the scoring?
I think they could get in a position where if you put Lamar Jackson in the clamps from behind, you kind of worry about him.
Easier said than done, though.
Right, it is.
They scored 40 plus more than any other team this year.
But I think there's quite possibly a team could do that. But in the playoffs here, I think the team that's best equipped to overcome the deficiency on one side of football that they might have, I think it's the Patriots because Tom Brady's a been there, done that kind of guy.
Right.
If their defense plays the way their defense has played outside of the game against Miami, because I guess Baltimore too, because Baltimore and Kansas City took it to them as well too. But how many times are you going to beat? How many times are you going to beat Bill Belichick twice? In a season there, and I know people are throwing their phones right now because of me picking the Patriots to make it, but I don't have them winning at all. So there you go. I think Saints over Patriots in the Super Bowl.
All right, you got Saints over Patriots. I got Chiefs over 49ers. So we'll see what happens. All right, Dave, let's get to some reading most close to the show. I think the person that asked this question found me on Twitter, but I do want to answer the question that was posed last time about NFL teams that have had the same rookie leader league-wide in receptions and tackles since 1980. There's only been two of them, Deontay Johnson, Devin Bush in 2019, and then Kevin Johnson and Wally Rayner in Cleveland in 99. So pretty rare company for those guys. So I wanted to answer that question because it was a good one. I was curious of the answer myself, and it has not happened often.
You know what I dug out last night doing some how many talking about did you look at them interceptions I dug up of Donnie Shell yesterday? He had 3 in one game against the Browns in I think it was 1981, and he had a game in 1980 where he had 2 interceptions in one game, picked off Kenny Stabler when Kenny Stabler was a member of the Oilers in there. You know that Donnie Shell throughout his career had 8 games, in which he picked off 2 or more passes in a game. Now, obviously, he only had the one game where he had 3 interceptions in, but that's obviously, I mean, that's been done done more times than you'd probably guess a player had 3 or 4 interceptions in a game. But he obviously is one of those guys. Donnie Shell, though, had 8 career games in which he picked off 2 or more passes in.
All right? Is that a record?
No, it's not a record, but how many people, at least dating back as far as Pro Football Reference goes, and it actually wasn't quick. It took a little time sorting and using some Excel in there and all. Well, how many players do you think through going back in the annals there have had 8 or more games with 2 or more interceptions?
Players in NFL history have had multi-interception games. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Well, no, had 8 or more.
Right.
I'm not talking about just multi. I'm talking how many players had 8 games or more of multi-interceptions in a game.
Yeah. No, I got you. I have no idea. I would say 10. If I just throw a number at you.
Believe it or not, it's more than that.
20.
More than that.
All right, I'm just going by divisions of 10.
32.
32, wow.
32. Now, let me read off some of these names on this list. Now, I'll tell you a name that I thought for sure would be on it was Deion Sanders, and he's not on it. Now, he had
really?
6 or 7 games multi, but not 8 or more. All right, here they are alphabetically from first name. Asante Samuel.
Okay.
Bobby Boyd, I don't even remember. A lot of these guys are way back. Bobby Boyd, Bobby Hunt, Charles Woodson, Denard Paulson, Darrell Green, who's in the Football Hall of Fame, right?
The Redskin corner.
Darren Sharper, Dave Brown, a guy that former Steelers first round pick, a guy that when you mentioned,
go to Seattle.
Yeah, he ended up most of his career being played in Seattle. Guy that probably belongs in a Pro Football Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. Dave Grayson, Deron Cherry, old Chiefs guy. Dick LeBeau.
Hey, there you go.
Donnie Shell.
Okay.
Ed Reed, who's in a Pro Football Hall of Fame. Emmett Thomas, who's in a Pro Football Hall of Fame. Everson Walls, longtime Dallas Cowboy. Gil Bird, Goose Gonsolin.
I was going to say Goose Gossage for a second there.
No, not good. But Goose is in there. Herb Adderley, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jake Scott. Johnny Robinson, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Johnny Sample. Ken Riley. Lem Barney, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Lamar Parrish, Lionel Washington. The next 3 are all in the Pro Football, or next 4 are all in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mike Haynes, Paul Krause, Rod Woodson, and Ronnie Lott. And closing out the list, Steve Foley, Tom Darden, and another Pro Football Hall of Famer, Willie Brown.
Wow, yeah, that is an elite list. How many of those guys are post-merger? Because obviously interceptions were a lot more prevalent, even post-merger.
Yeah, let's see. Samuel for sure, Woodson, Green, Sharper, Brown, Cherry.
Would you say
Probably half of them. Yeah,
about half? Yeah.
probably a little more than half.
I'm surprised Evelyn Tunnel's not on there. That was the name that came to mind. That he's not on that list. But I don't know if they have the stats tracked that far back.
What? I went back to, I think they go back to 50 or whatnot, right?
Okay. Well, he started in 48. I'm looking at his stats here, but anyway, yeah. I mean, obviously a really impressive list. I mean, that's littered with Hall of Famers or guys that could certainly be in the conversation. Ken Riley, a great corner, who really helped, was part of the Dick LeBeau defense when he helped invent the zone blitz. Actually, the story with Ken Riley is the first time LeBeau ever called that zone blitz. I think in a preseason game, Riley was the guy that picked off the pass, and everyone kind of went, "Whoa, we have something here." So, yeah, great list, and I think Shell is certainly worthy to be inducted in the can.
Yeah, now, look, I mean, I've said it several times. If he does, I'm afraid that if Donnie does not get in with this kind of expanded class, when will he get in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it might be boom or bust for Donnie Shell.
And once again, and I know they don't listen to us, any of the voters, but if you get a chance to reach out to any of these guys on Twitter or email, let them know that a lot of Donnie Shell's interceptions came after, the fourth Super Bowl. He was a good or great safety long after the dynasty Steelers were done with there in the 70s. So anyway, let's. Did you get to the answer to that email there? I guess you did. Or the Twitter question. Tyler Aldridge writes in, Devin Bush, hi guys, I just want to get you guys' takes on something. PFF said in their end of the year rookie grades, they mentioned that Devin Bush was great in coverage in man situations, but in zone he wasn't good at all. Did you guys see this? I haven't heard you mention it. They traced it back to Michigan being a man-heavy scheme, which didn't allow Bush to be super comfortable in zone. So maybe next season his comfort level will go up and he'll be better in zone since he did it a decent amount this year, or maybe the Steelers will lean more heavily to a man scheme next season. Also, what would you guys have to do to get Alex to be qualified to go to Tomlin pressers and do the locker room interviews and whatnot? I imagine there are qualifiers that you guys would be able to do that, right? I'd be interested in seeing Alex ask Tomlin and the players. Good question. First of all, if we pushed hard enough, we could probably get Alex in there. I think really, though, for what, 2 more questions? Where's the trade-off where Alex is better served? I don't know. How do you want to tackle that? Plus, look, a lot of those guys in there don't like us.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it, whether other people like us or not. That's something we'll always think about and consider, and maybe something we work towards, but just not something that we've looked at right now. To the first part of the question, yeah, I think we mentioned this on the podcast a week or two ago. That Butler was talking about how Bush was getting used to matchup zones. He played primarily man coverage in Michigan, so it's an adjustment for him. So I don't know if PFF's saying anything radical there. I think it's something that Butler's talked about, and I think it's pretty obvious on tape. So yeah, I mean, comfort is going to grow in year 2 as you learn how to read routes and what route combinations are like, and learning how to study tape and game plan, and get a good feel for what's coming. So yeah, it's all things that it's going to happen. The more you make mistakes and learn from them, and I think the best thing I can say about Devin Bush is that this guy learns from his mistakes. You don't see him make the same mistake twice. This is a guy that's really improved his game. Even in Week 17, I did a video yesterday on Steelers Depot that kind of talked about how I thought while the defense was pretty bad overall in the finale, Bush played well, and I've seen a lot of growth and improvement week to week from him.
I think we saw an exponential jump for him just in the last 2 games alone.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think what game it was. It was one of the Browns games where it was kind of poor, and then from then on, he seemed to really finish the season strong. For these rookies, for as much as they played, I didn't feel like guys hit the rookie wall. Benny Snell, Devin Bush, Deontay Johnson. I know Johnson said he did, but just in terms of their performance, those guys all finished really, really well. And credit to the Steelers for managing their reps, but credit to those plays for being strong to the finish line. Yeah,
I think, there's a lot of positives to look forward to with a lot of members of this rookie class, Bush and Deontay Johnson and Benny Snell all moving in.
Isaiah Bucks played well. He played 7 snaps against Baltimore, but I was really impressed with Isaiah Bucks Sunday.
I'll have to go back. I haven't focused in on that.
I got an article today that talks about that. So
I'll have to make sure I get on top of that. Jonathan Mason writes in, Alex and Dave, I understand that Randy didn't have Ben this year, but I'm convinced he's just not a good OC for a lot of reasons. I know that he will be here as long as Ben is here, but with that being the case, this team badly needs a dynamic 3-down back, and I would not be opposed to using that 49th pick on one of the top backs in this draft. Seems the most creative he can get is the Wildcat. So at this point, it's more about adding talent. Do y'all think Randy actually values a tight end? Yeah, he values a tight end. They just weren't used this year. I get that Vance had a down year, but it seems like the only plays that were designed for him was a tight end screen or something short over the middle. Thanks as always. Jonathan, do you think they go into it? How many plays do you think they have where they go, all right, see this Coke bottle top? This is Vance. We got to get him the ball on this exact play.
Is that a reference to something?
No.
Okay, I just feel like it was like a movie reference with the Coke bottle top. Yeah, I mean, obviously they value the tight end. Look what Vance did last year, and Feetner was the OC. It's not the fact that they devalue the tight end. This isn't Bruce Arians as the offensive coordinator. But point taken. Listen, I think that Feetner's like Butler, where you got to put a ton of talent around him for the coach to look good and to succeed. So I've been critical of Feetner, but we both recognize, and the reader does here, that he's going to come back in 2020.
Look, you got to be sometimes. You don't have to have a super thick playbook as far as base stuff that you like to do. But what you got to be able to do is build off and make one thing look the same, but have it become 14 different things. That's one area that I think that him and Ben need to get in the lab on and do a better job of moving forward. And here's the thing too: a lot of people think, well, why didn't they just tailor how many hours a day do you think this team practices, Alex?
They practice for there's CBA rules around it. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hour practice.
Right. How much can you get done in that amount of time?
It's tough, yeah. It's restrictive, and a lot of that's for player safety and can be helpful, but it's a challenge in terms of being ready and prepped. Absolutely.
With all that you have to do, to get done during a rep week, a lot. That's why the off season, the OTAs, and the training camp is so important, right? Because you're installing your offense.
Yeah, because it's hard to teach it during the season because you got to practice the stuff that you're going to use on Sunday, the stuff you're game planning for. It's hard to do the basics, and it's hard to adjust on the fly. So, again, I get the context for Feetner this year and how difficult of a year it was. It doesn't excuse Feetner by any stretch of the imagination, but it is context worth pointing out.
And you need that asterisk next to him being the quarterback situation.
Not even just that, but the running back situation, the receiver situation, some of the injuries on the offensive line, just everything, where every position was a revolving door with injuries and new faces and guys, can you trust them? And it was a mess beyond just the quarterback situation, though obviously primarily beginning with the quarterback situation.
Now, is he going to get any kind of award in the near future of most most improved, of anything related to offensive coordinator? Is he going to get that award? No. But look, we saw what they can do when Ben's healthy, and that was even with poor field position throughout the 2018 season. All right, and a poor defense, or not as good a defense. Imagine them getting Ben back and making a few adjustments here and having that defense play the way they did last year. Look at the red zone improvement. You were floored by it. You had to be floored by the red zone improvement last 2018, right?
Oh my God, yeah, it was historically good, and then this year it was
who gets credit for that?
Well, I think I said that was the number one thing that Feetner did well last year was improve the Steelers' red zone offense, and I couldn't really put my finger on why it improved so dramatically and drastically, but certainly Feetner gets credit for that.
Look, we both accept the fact that he's not top 10,
Well, we both called him below average, and I still believe that.
But they still can they win with him?
Yeah, they can. But only when they have that kind of talent that just transcends the coaching.
Right, they're going to need talent on the offensive side, but they need people to stay healthy too.
Yeah, they do.
I'm against spending that 49th overall pick in the second round on a running back, all-around running back.
Yeah, it's not top of my list. I wouldn't be furious if they did it, but I think you got enough guys. You've had trouble trying to establish a rotation. Snell's been impressive. I think he'll come back strong his sophomore year. Obviously, you still want Connor to be the guy whenever he is healthy. I know health has been fleeting, but I'd probably look elsewhere at 49 or 50 other than running back.
Yeah, all right. Blake Literal writes in, you guys have spent a lot of time talking about how we can keep Bud. My only concern is we went from thinking he was a potential bust to wanting to pay him $17 million. Alex, you have always been quick to defend his lack of production due to injury. I'm just worried about his health. Remember that Woodley guy? Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to let him go. Please talk more about what if we don't sign Dupree, if you could, just that different perspective. Look, I don't know how you can predict the guy's health from this point forward right now, for starters.
Yeah, I don't compare him to Woodley just because of the work ethic. I think Dupree's got a really, really strong work ethic, and Woodley kind of lost that, especially once the injuries started to pile up and his weight got out of control. So I don't think the situations are comparable. And again, I get the concern because, sure, this time a year ago we were talking about, why did they give him Dupree the option? But you saw what he did this year, and I really think health was one of the huge reasons why he was able to kind of unlock the talent. And you got a true and clear evaluation of Dupree. And I said as much prior to this year, that this is the year, if he could stay healthy, you would find out what you had in the guy, and you found out he's a really talented player.
All right, he wants us to talk about if they don't bring back Bud. Well, you already you got Tuzar locked up. You already got Daney. Daney didn't get all that much playing time throughout the year, so there's going to be a big off season for him as well. Are you going to have money to go out there and get a guy that can start for you and be productive for you opposite Watt? Yeah, good luck with that. Would you have to spend that 49th overall pick on an edge? Yeah, probably. Is that kid going to come in and be an instant impact player? Probably not. So it's a very shallow conversation to be had. I mean, not a lot of optimism there.
Yeah, you would have to take in the draft. The reason why you don't spend much time thinking about them not having Dupree is because of how adamant Tomlin recently was about them keeping Dupree. They're going to keep Dupree in some capacity for 2020, so I don't spend much time thinking about a situation I don't think will occur. If Dupree were to go in some scenario, then you try to bring back Hargrave. I think that they could and they would, and then you probably draft an edge, definitely high with one of your top two picks.
All right, Bryce writes in about playoff starting. When you watch the tape, why do you believe that B.J. Finney is not highly regarded by this coaching staff? I think we already answered that several times, Bryce, is the fact that it sure was a shot over across the bow of Finney when he wasn't allowed to start against the Rams.
I guess the question is, why are they lacking that confidence in him is the more interesting question.
Maybe an overall strength factor, I would guess. Not the most. I mean, who's more agile, Filer or Finney? Look, Finney's put some good starts down on paper at left guard.
Right, which is the thing. It's not like he's never played. It's not like they've never let him play guard before, just in that one game. But I just feel like, they like their guards bigger and stronger long term, and that's why they would opt to Filer over Finney.
He says, seems to me if the team lets the big Ragu go, that the most seamless transition would be for Finley to be your starting left guard and keep Filer at right tackle. Plus, I believe Finney gives the Steelers more diversity in the run game because of his ability to pull and block out in space. Look, Filer moves pretty decent as well, too. And I think that's one of the things that going back a couple preseasons ago, I thought, man, he actually moves pretty well, from out of a phone booth.
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar in terms of their mobility, and for the reasons I said earlier, is that from a financial standpoint, if you cut Foster and then you re-sign Finney, I mean, you're probably even taking up more cap space, or about the same amount of cap space. So I just think financially, to be able to tag someone like Dupree, those are the moves you have to make.
Obviously, less tape, more security with Finney just because they're more kind of tape as an interior guy in there. More of a kind of, I guess, a question mark related to Filer kicking inside. I think one area, though, where you automatically become deficient is your backup center spot, because I don't think you can expect Filer to do that, take that on as well.
Yeah, that's why you'll draft somebody.
And J.C. Hassenauer, just gonna be probably a guy that who knows, maybe he ends up being a practice squad guy again, but a long way away from that and an undrafted class away from that. And I think that's why I think in a draft, in that second round pick or third round pick, you get a guy that maybe a center / guard type if you can.
Yep, I'm with you.
Let's see. As far as the coaching staff goes, I believe the offense should bring in a very high-end, experienced quarterback coach who can help with the game planning, another offensive quality coach-type assistant, and that would free up Randy to focus solely on overall game planning schemes and becoming a better play caller in general. Your thoughts on this strategy? Look, I mean, if you want to bring in a better, more experienced quarterback coach, have at it. But you act like exponentially that's going to have an effect. I don't see it.
I'll have an article for next week on some options. I was thinking about that the other day, but it's kind of weird because you're trying to hit this sweet spot between, you can't bring in some top quarterback coach because he's not really running the room because he's not really working with Ben because it's gonna be Ben and Fichtner, so like that's a weird dynamic. But then you want someone that's I guess above a Matt Sims level where he's not some young guy that's 20-something years old either, because that's just what you have in Matt Sims. So like you're trying to find this middle ground between somebody that's going to come in to basically work with just the backups, not really so much Ben, and still want that job. It's kind of a weird situation. So it's been hard to find some names that fit, but I will have an article on some potential names sometime next week.
Is Bruce Gradkowski on that list?
He's not. I try to stay away from the former Steelers that that fans just know. Like I'm not gonna have Charlie Batch on that list. I'm not gonna have Gradkowski. Maybe it could be Gradkowski, but I try to have names that aren't just okay. These are the closest people to Pittsburgh right now, and so I'm gonna put them on there. Like I'll give you one teaser now, and this would have made a lot of sense had this job offer not just happened. But Mike Yurcich, who just accepted the OC job at Texas, who was Mason Rudolph's OC and quarterback coach for his entire career. He's a PA guy. I think he was at East Stroudsburg, and I think born around Western PA. That would have made a lot of sense, but I do recognize he just got the Texas job to be the OC there, so it probably doesn't work. But if he wanted a chance for the NFL, he's a really bright offensive mind, highly regarded. Obviously knows Mason. I think that would fit well in theory.
Exponentially, how much can a quarterback coach help?
I mean, it's hard to put the value on that stuff. I mean, it certainly can help. I don't know what percentage it's going to get better, but I'm open to the idea, just as Tomlin said that he was open to the idea.
Jelani writes in, Happy New Year. Looking forward towards another great year of Steelers content and podcasts. This may be a dumb question, but how big a need would you guys say outside linebacker is? The reason I asked is assuming Dupree is back. I would be concerned about the depth behind Watt Dupree. In case ones go down, there wouldn't be much behind them. Thanks again for a great 2000. Look, we already talked about I think you can kind of go ahead and pencil in Daney and Tuzar Skipper as we sit here today. Now, probably another undrafted free agent or two going to be brought in. Maybe a lower level, extremely cheap special team. Remember, if they're going to back up Watt or Dupree, they better be able to play special teams too.
And a lot of it.
Especially with because we don't, unless Chicolo comes back on a vet minimum, you cut him and he comes back on a vet minimum, you're going to be it makes it more, when you look at this, it makes it even more imperative to kind of get Bud Dupree back in the fold somehow, some way. And I think Daney and Tuzar Skipper, as things stand right now for obvious reasons, are your guys backing those two up. So you definitely can address the position in the draft too, if you like, from I don't know, fourth round on, third, fourth, round on.
Yep. Article on Steelers Depot today says Famola Daney saying that he felt like he got lost in the shuffle this past year, 2019. So he's probably chomping at the bit for a role in 2020.
All right. Derek Wilson writes in, could you see Pittsburgh possibly luring Hines back to Pittsburgh to be the next wide receiver coach? I just thought that with the passing of Darryl Drake and Ray Sherman likely not wanting to stick around for an extended period of time, Hines makes sense. I don't know if Hines just has that experience yet, Maybe another year or two down the line or whatnot, but I just view him as a not ready type yet.
I don't know if I can't determine his readiness. I think they would rather just promote Blaine Stewart, the guy that's been working with that group, or because the way that they've gone for the last couple receiver coaches is Richard Mann, Darryl Drake, and then having Ray Sherman be the interim coach, they've gone kind of with that veteran father figure type, which I don't think Hines qualifies as that. So I think they're either going to promote Blaine Stewart, or either Sherman sticks around, or if they go outside the organization, it's going to be that father figure, 30 years in the league kind of coach, because it's still a young receiver room that's very youthful, and I think having that kind of coach has been beneficial.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I want somebody who's been there, done that. It's got to, because Juju, even though this is going to be his 4th season, he's still a kid.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to have another new draft pick at some point in this room. Crucial year for Deontay Johnson to be guided correctly along in his 2nd year. So I would much rather have it be a more experienced guy as well, too.
Yeah, and it's not to say that Hines isn't ready, but he's not a Richard Mann or Daryl Drake or Ray Sherman kind of guy.
All right, one last one. Benjamin McDay writes in, who are the Steelers' backup safeties going into the offseason? Marcus Allen. That's it.
Yeah. Jordan Dangerfield. That's about it. Some futures guys that'll get added to this offseason roster. But yeah, safety depth is one of the most shallow positions on this roster right now. I was really surprised last year they did not draft a safety. I thought for sure they were going to take somebody. You kind of see why now. Cam Kelly obviously didn't work out, had the off-the-field issues that got him released. So position I expect this team to address at some point, maybe higher than you think, either in the draft or in free agency.
You think you can be qualified for the 49th overall pick? That's a little high, ain't it?
I'm not here to rule anything out on January 3rd. That does feel a little high, but I know the importance of it, so I'm not gonna rule it out entirely.
As we start drifting into more draft and stuff and all like that, what are your top 3 positional needs pre-free agency as far as draft goes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just depends on what happens in free agency. I mean, in terms of who they retain, I'm going to assume here that they keep Bud Dupree in some capacity. So with that in mind, tight end, interior defensive line, basically nose tackle to replace Hargrave, and I think I'd put safety on that list too. And that's in no particular order, but that nose tackle, essentially, safety, tight end.
You wouldn't put interior offensive line?
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I mean,
I'll give you 4. I'll give you 4. So
okay.
those 4, and I would agree with you on it. And as much as I'd like to carve out a hole, look, you're only going to have so many picks, man. And you don't have that first round pick. People keep asking, is there anything that the Steelers can do to get back in the first round? And I don't want to talk in absolutes here, but I just don't see any way the Steelers get back into that first round. As we sit here now, I think it's going to be your 2nd round pick. I think it's going to be obviously your 3rd round compensatory pick, and then you go from there. And I think a lot of it's going to have to be spent on the offensive side of the football this time around.
I think the better question is how likely is it they'd trade out of that 2nd round spot and move down maybe 10 spots and pick up another day 2 pick. That's what I would potentially do if I'm Pittsburgh, get an extra pick.
Yeah, and looking also, I had that question a little while ago, do they have the 49th or the 50th overall? I keep rereading that, and I keep coming away with the kind of the rotation of those 8 and 8 teams is that they will have the 49th overall pick and not the 50th.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because just based on lack of free agency, they're probably not going to do a lot out there. It's going to be hard to address those holes without a lot of draft capital. It makes a lot of sense if you're sitting there at 49. Let's move back 10 spots whenever the time comes. Pick up maybe a low 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, whatever the case is, to try to have an extra draft pick to address some of those holes you probably can't really tackle in free agency as well as you could have, say, last year.
Because even your 3rd round compensatory pick that you're going to get is going to come at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be like 63 probably. It's going to be 63 overall. So if you get an extra pick in there, it'd be really, really beneficial.
Yeah, no, your compensatory is going
to. No, 60. Yeah, I might get my math wrong. It'd be 65.
No, because that's the end of the 2nd round.
Oh my goodness, my math is horrible today.
You need to take the shoes off.
I do. It'd be. Yeah, whatever you do the
math. 32 times 3 is what? 96, right? So it's going to come after. You're going to be probably in the hundreds.
Yeah, that top one right after. Yeah, it'd be right around 100. Okay, you're right.
So you're going to go from 49th to, let's say, 99th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I really think trading back in the 2nd round. Forget about trading. I'm not going to happen. But trading back out of 49 is I think makes a lot of sense.
But anyway, I would agree with you. I think both interior offensive and defensive line could be in the sights here. I think tight end is something, especially if you part ways with Vance McDonald, that's got to go up, towards the top. And what else did you say?
Nose tackle and safety.
Yeah, I think safety is something you got to look at. Probably not second round, but
And
anytime.
obviously, how do you replace Hargrave? I mean, there's no one internally to do that.
Yeah, not the way it looks at right now. Boy, I think Billings is going to cost too much too. Our boy Billings.
Yeah. Really, really tough spot again. So with how financially cap strapped they are, I know you can massage the cap, but it's really going to be tough to bring in anybody above a couple $1 million.
All right, enough kibitzing for today, Alex. We turned what we thought might be 90 minutes into 2 hours. I'm good at that. In the meantime, we will be back on Monday recapping what happened in the wild card round of the playoffs there. Follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. Do you like what we do? Do you want to keep supporting us throughout the off season here? Especially with this podcast, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button on the upper right navigational bar if you feel so inclined. Also, for $25, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. $25 for 1 calendar year will get you that. Go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upper right navigational bar. Boy, we've got a lot of football on tap, Alex. I'm pretty excited, even though the Steelers aren't in it this year. Going to be a fun playoffs to watch as usual. So until Monday. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.